The spring 2021 annual town meeting and special town meeting. I am your moderator, Don Gibson. I have been informed by the clerk of the town that the deputy sheriff of Plymouth County has posted copies of the notice of the annual town meeting at the appropriate number of public places within the town and in a timely fashion. In the interest of time, I will not introduce everyone here on the stage. Just know that before you, with one exception, as working as my assistant moderator for the very first time tonight, is Grace Callahan, a member of the Marshfield High School class of 2022. Grace, can you just wave or stand up for a minute? All right. But you have before you the town clerk, the town accountant, the treasurer collector, the town administrator, the board of selectmen, and hiding over to my left is our IT director, and seated in the front of me is our advisory board. At this point, I want to get a list, and I have it, of out-of-town residents or residents who are not registered to vote. And I would ask at the end of this list, I'll call for a vote to allow them to sit on the floor with their various boards, committees, or commissions, so long as they understand that they cannot vote on any particular article. Griffin Webb, Animal Control; Andrew Stewart, Building; Carol Hamilton, Council on Aging; Bill Grafton, Conservation; Eric Flint, Conservation; Rod Procaccino, Department of Public Works; Tom Reynolds, Department of Public Works; Mike DeMeo, Harbor Master; Jay McGillis, IT, Information Technology; John Nash, Information Technology; Cindy Marcoux, Library; Mike Badana, Police; Craig Jameson, Recreation; Jeff Granatino, Schools; Karen Paulette, Veterans. And as I've already told you, we have up here Grace Callahan, who's going to be our clock operator from Marshfield High School. And we have behind her Sophie Costello, I'm sorry. Just wave your hand. She is an apprentice town clock operator. She's being groomed for that. We have also the pleasure this evening of having Livy Rodriguez sing our national anthem. She is a senior at Marshfield High School, and I believe she told me she's going to be going to Roger Williams College. Also asking permission to sit on the floor is Stephen M. Gard, an attorney from out of town. With respect to MCTV, we have Sean Leary, Jen Palmer, and interns Aaron Tracy, Gabriel Bajorquez, Nate Zimmer, and Kyle Stockford. So at this time, I would move that all of these individuals be allowed to sit with their committees, boards on the floor, so long as they do not vote in any particular warrant article. All in favor, raise your hand. It carries unanimously. Thank you very much. At this time, I am going to ask our town clerk. Well, she has him here right for me. Thank you very much. Do we still have how many sections tonight?
We're going to do six.
So, six?
Actually, we're going to do five. One.
All right.
Four is two.
Well, excuse me. We're going to have you explain this. All right. We're going to do 5 sections tonight. So I would ask the town clerk, please, to identify the 5 sections. And if you'd also identify who your teller is in each of those 5 sections, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, section 1 are those bleachers, and it's Cindy Castro. And section 2 is the center here, and there are 56 seats, and that is Greg Eamon, who is somewhere. There he is. I'm going to do those bleachers over here, and Andrew Wedding will do the left section in the back. There are 80 seats on one side, 40 seats on one side and 40 seats on the other, and Karen Wedding will do the right side. Okay?
All right, thank you very much. As far as the Next session of business, I would like to recognize Father Stephen Boyle of St. Christine's Parish to lead us in a prayer. If you'd all stand, please. Is that on?
Loving God, in this time of anxiety, fear, and isolation, we come
Go
to
turn
you
it on.
for support, courage, and direction. We lay our worried minds. Thank you. And our troubled soul before you and your care. Today we ask for your Spirit to be close to those who are affected and those who have lost loved ones due to COVID-19. We ask that the same Spirit be with us and them in uncertain times. Help our calm. May your peace that surpasses all comprehension guard our hearts and our minds. We confess that at times we allow fear, not faith, to overtake us. O God, we try to love you and our neighbor with word and with deeds. We ask that you aid us in our love and compassion of those who live next door to us and those who live on the other side of town. God of compassion and grace, we cling to your word and your presence in our homes, in our churches, in our wonderful community. We place our faith in your hope of healing. May your divine love come upon us and our whole world to end the spread of this pandemic. Strengthen those who are ill, uplift the downtrodden, heal the sick, and comfort the lowly this day. May your hand be upon every doctor, every nurse, every healthcare worker, every first responder as they care for our community. Lift up and care for these men and women, risking their very lives for the public good. For our leaders, O Lord, we ask your great wisdom be instilled with them. As our national and local leaders still seek protection and safety for the public, help to guide their decisions and their actions. We pray for the leaders of every nation. May each country continue to receive every human and divine resource to combat this great ill. Finally, Lord, we lift up tonight our local leaders today. In this challenging time as this town, we look at them with wonder, with awe, and with gratitude for all that they have done during this crisis. We are especially grateful to all those who ensure the safe distribution of vaccines in our own community. We pray tonight for all who serve our town of Marshfield. Strengthen them with wisdom and grace for the heavy burdens that they carry. May they manage their teams and their projects with love and keep their hearts pure and their eyes turned towards your face as they work in the best interest of the people they're called to serve. Oh God, you are our rock in distress, worry, and doubt. And just as the light shines bright upon the sunrise on our beautiful beaches, we pray your light of love and guidance shines bright in the hearts and the minds of all who live in this wonderful community. May we carry your light into the world, O loving God. Give us peace. And we ask this in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Father Steve. You may be seated. I would next call to the front of the room to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, veteran Lieutenant Edward P. Timlin, Jr. I'd like you to hear some of his background before he actually leads us in the pledge. Ed enlisted in the Navy prior to graduating from Youngstown State University in 1966 and was commissioned ensign in January of 1967. He was assigned to the U.S. Naval Mobile Construction Battalion 9 and served 2 tours of duty in Vietnam. Ed was awarded the National Defense Service Medal, the Vietnam Service Medal, the Vietnam Campaign Medal with Device, and the Combat Action Ribbon. Ed was honorably discharged in November of 1969 and went on to serve 3 additional years in the active reserve. Ed and his wife Paula have lived in Marshfield for 47 years and raised their 2 children, Mark and Brenna, here. Ed is a trustee of the Veterans Memorials and an active member of the Korean War Veterans Association. Now, after Ed gives us the Pledge of Allegiance, or leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please remain standing for the singing of the national anthem. Ed, if you would, please. Ed, is your mic on? Just make sure the mic's turned on. Yes, good.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I would now invite Olivia Rodriguez to come to the front podium, please, and lead us in the national anthem. Livy is a senior at Marshfield High School.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Livy. Very well done. All right, be seated. Our objective tonight is to complete the 2 warrants that you will have before you, one for the special town meeting and one for the annual town meeting in one night. I'd like to go over with you ahead of time some information you need with respect to each of those warrants. There is only one consent agenda for you to review tonight, only one. And if you picked them up as you came in, it's on, I was told this is lavender. This is the consent agenda. It is, I'll talk about that more in just a moment because that's for the annual town meeting. However, I do have the prerogative of linking articles that deal with the same subject matter. So Article 6 and Article 11 on the special town meeting warrant are linked because they do deal with the same subject matter. So during the lottery, if Article 11 comes up, we will go automatically and first to Article 6 and then to Article 11. If Article 6 comes up, we will handle Article 6 and then move to Article 11. The consent agenda, as I told you, is on this lavender colored paper, and I urge you to study it during the course of the special town meeting. The annual town meeting consent agenda consists of Articles 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, and the first 4 items of Article 13 and Article 17. These are fairly routine matters that would ordinarily generate little debate. That's why they're on the consent agenda. We're hoping for passage by consensus so that we can move on to the heart of the meeting and the warrant articles that are going to generate debate and discussion. You will also see on the consent agenda the Articles 14, 16, and 18 of the annual town meeting warrant are being brought forward so they can be passed over indefinitely. There will be 2 votes on each of which requires a majority vote. The second majority vote will be necessary to indefinitely postpone Articles 14, 16, and 18. Now, a special word. Because Article 2 and Article 17 of the consent agenda in the annual town meeting involve an increase in my compensation from $92 to $300, I did not feel that I should preside over the consent agenda, and I have asked former moderator Jim Fitzgerald to chair that portion of the meeting. After you have addressed the consent agenda, I will take the gavel again, and we will begin to consider the other articles on the annual town meeting warrant. With respect to the annual town meeting warrant, I will link Articles 9 and 10 because they involve the same subject matter. In accordance with Section 5-6 of the codified Marshfield bylaws, we will proceed to Articles 3 and 4, which are the omnibus budget and capital budget articles immediately after dealing with the consent agenda, as they are exempt from the lottery. At this time, I would like to exercise a moderator's privilege, and I would like to recognize Andrew Stewart, the Marshfield Building Commissioner and Zoning Enforcement Officer, to address the meeting for a public service announcement. So please come to the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Andrew Stewart. I'm the Building Commissioner and Floodplain Manager for the town of Marshfield. Marshfield has a significant amount of properties located in or near flood zones and is a member of the CRS Community Rating System and National Flood Insurance Program. As such, we have adopted several flood-related codes and bylaws that help protect our properties and earn the residents discounts for their flood insurance. At a current rating of 7, with the most points for CRS in the state of Massachusetts, and recognized by FEMA as a national best practice, Marshfield has earned a 15% discount on flood insurance for residents in a flood zone and low-cost options for residents outside of flood zones. The CRS committee is dedicated to the task of encouraging all residents to purchase flood insurance, to lower our flood insurance rates, to inform residents about flood zone requirements and flood hazards, and ensuring the safety of our buildings and residents from flood damage through application of the building and zoning codes. If you'd like more information on flood zones, flood hazards, or flood insurance, please visit www.marshfield.ma.org/CRS or contact me at the building department. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate that. I now recognize the Board of Selectmen for 3 purposes. First, to make you aware of the recent news from the COVID task force. Second, to recognize and thank one of its outgoing members for his service to our community. And third, for the purpose of swearing in our new fire chief. I now recognize the Board of Selectmen.
I will.
Good evening, everyone. Great to see everybody here at town meeting. I want to just take a couple of minutes, if you'll let us indulge us a little bit. One of the things that Mr. Darcy and I would like to do is we want to thank Michael Bradley for his service on the Board of Selectmen. Michael's been a selectman for 6 years. He served 2 terms as selectman. And one thing I have, learned in my very short time, my 2 years on the board, and as running for the board, is serving as a selectman is a calling, and it's out of pure love for the town, the people of the town, and I see a lot of that in Michael Bradley, and now he's being called to somewhere else, and we're going to miss him, but we wish him all the best. And Steve has a couple words or not, or no? All right. So I want to present Mr. Bradley, Michael Bradley, this plaque and gavel in recognition of exemplary service to the town of Marshfield as a member and outgoing chairman of the Board of Selectmen from 2015 to 2021.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Get us
Everybody, please indulge me while I have my family come up here briefly. All right, let's get a quick photo of everyone. Mikey.
Wait, you want to sit?
Mike?
You guys take this?
Mr. Rowland,
Yes, sir.
can you take your
Yes, Mr.
baggie
Moderator.
off, and he'll put another on? Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't announce that earlier, but this is the process we'll follow at all microphones as part of our COVID precautions.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you to my colleagues on the Board of Selectmen for this wonderful gift. I know everybody wants to get to the town meeting, so I'll be brief. I just want to thank everybody for the kind words. It's been my real honor to serve as your selectman for the last 6 years. Everything that we've done has been the result of a collective team effort. I'd like to thank my beautiful wife and children. I couldn't have done it without you. I'd like to thank all the selectmen past and present for their dedication to our town, as well as all of our elected officials and volunteers. I'd also like to thank Chiefs Tavares and Hawking, and as well as Michael Maresco for all your help and continued steadfast commitment to our community. Together, we've done so much. The last year has been difficult, but we're now really seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and as my final request, I simply ask that you all continue to work together and, more importantly, take care of one another. I'm not going very far. I'll always be here. It's been a privilege. And, Mr. Moderator, is that time for our new fire chiefs to come up?
Well, I think we should. We're going to now have another aspect of moderator's privilege, and I think you should swear him in.
Chief Simpson. All right, sir. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Jeff Simpson,
As Fire Chief for the Town of Marshfield Fire Department,
as Fire Chief for the Town of Marshfield Fire Department,
swear I'll support the constitutions of the United States and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts,
swear I'll support the Constitution of the United States and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts,
and I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially
and I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially
discharge the duties of Fire Chief of the Town of the Marshfield Fire Department.
discharge the duties of the Fire Chief for the Town of Marshfield Fire Department.
I pledge to carry out the duties of Fire Chief to the best of my ability.
I pledge to carry out the abilities of the Fire Chief to the best of my ability.
I will honor and respect the mission,
I'll honor and respect the mission,
goals, purpose, and policies
goals, purpose, and policies
of the Town of the Marshfield Fire Department.
of the Town of Marshfield Fire Department.
I pledge to promote and protect the best interests of the Town of Marshfield
I pledge to promote and protect the best interests of the Town of Marshfield
through fiscal responsibility,
through fiscal responsibility,
honesty, integrity, and loyalty.
honesty, integrity, and loyalty.
I will never allow personal feelings
I will never allow personal feelings,
nor danger to self deter me from my responsibilities.
nor danger to self deter me from my responsibilities.
I will at all times respect the property and rights of all persons,
I will at all times respect the rights and properties of all persons,
the laws of my country,
the laws of my country,
and the members I serve with.
and the members I serve with.
I recognize the badge of my office as a symbol of public faith and trust.
I recognize the badge of my office as a symbol of public faith and trust.
I do solemnly swear that I have all of the qualifications required of my position.
I do solemnly swear I have all the qualifications of my position.
I accept this self-imposed and self-enforced obligation
I accept this self-imposed and self-enforced obligation
as my responsibility
as as my responsibility,
and make these promises solemnly,
and may these promises solemnly,
freely, and upon my honor.
freely, and upon my honor.
Everybody, let's welcome our chief. Chief, hold on. Yes, sir. And Chief Simpson's family, if you would like to come up real quick, we'll get a quick photo and then back to the town meeting. Welcome. Jump right in there anywhere you want. Get the family up front here. They're on the sides. Great. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
I would now call upon the town administrator to give the town meeting some very pleasant news, a recent development, and it's being reported to us tonight from the COVID task force. I recognize Mr. Maresco.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just so folks know, Marshfield's finally moved into green, which is wonderful because we were in red, we were in yellow, now we're in green, and we hope to get into gray. Just to put it into perspective, number of cases the last 14 days with 32 cases. Percent positivity in the last 14 days is 1.92%, down from 2.44%. Average daily incident rate per 100,000 the last 14 days is 8.8, down from 12.4%. So congratulations. Continue to practice social distancing, wear your face mask, and wash hands often. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's welcome news. In that vein, I do want to again go over the procedure when you are speaking from the floor. We do have these sandwich bags or baggies, which you are to select, cover the microphone before you begin talking. After you finish and get ready to sit down, then take that, put it in the trash, and then the next person will select a new one. We have one microphone for you here at the front of the hall. There's another microphone right back in the middle of the hall, a little bit further than the middle. Tonight, as part of our COVID precautions, we have, and you can probably tell it's a little chilly in here, we've opened all the windows so that we can improve circulation. We also want everyone, when you get ready to leave the meeting, at the end of the meeting tonight, to exit through these two doors, which are to my right and to your left in the middle of the hall. Do not go back the way that you came in, please. This will help us very much maintain social distancing. Now, to turn more to the business of the meeting, I have been informed by Jack Griffin, Chair of the Capital Budget Committee, that the capital budget has been considered, and the committee has voted in favor of all articles on the special town meeting warrant and the annual town meeting warrant that involve capital expenditures. Should you have a specific question concerning a capital expenditure, Jack and his committee are here and will answer it if necessary. But they have agreed that it is not necessary for me to call upon them each and every time a capital expenditure is before you. This will help us expedite the meeting and move things along so we can finish in one night. At this time, I think I've covered all the preliminary matters with the exception of one. I have instituted a practice in which I call upon the treasurer-collector for the town of Marshfield to provide us with a summary of the town's financial balances prior to appropriating any monies. I recognize the town treasurer and collector, Mr. Delarusso, for this purpose.
Mr. Moderator, thank you. Patrick Delarusso, 8 Parsons Walk. Our certified free cash going into tonight is $2,033,996. Certified water retained earnings, $1,523,751. Certified wastewater retained earnings, $1,701,569. Certified solid waste retained earnings, $1,852,100. Should everything pass this evening about the special and annual town meeting, the remainder in cash and all the accounts are as followed. Free cash at $1,003,996. Certified retained earnings water, $493,751. Certified wastewater, $636,569. And certified solid waste retained earnings, $7,100. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Della Russo. At this time, I hereby move that we adjourn the annual town meeting for the purpose of addressing the articles contained in the special town meeting warrant and to return to the articles in the annual town meeting warrant immediately after the conclusion of the business in the special town meeting. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed? Carries unanimously. All of the articles, as you know, in the special town meeting warrant are selected by lottery, which our town clerk is going to begin. And here we go. All right, the first article we're going to consider is Article number 8, and who's on deck? 3. Article 3 is on deck. I'll read Article number 8. The Board of Public Works moves that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $300,000 to cover the increase in cost for fiscal year 2021 solid waste expenses for solid waste disposal as described in the special town meeting warrant under Article 8 of the April 26, 2021 special town meeting warrant, and to meet this appropriation, transfer the sum of $300,000 from certified solid waste retained earnings, said sum to be expended under the direction of the DPW superintendent and the general supervision of the Board of Public Works. This is a Board of Public Works article. I now recognize a representative. And I see Mr. Carrier come. No, is it? Oh, it's Mr. Reynolds. Sorry, we can't see everybody with the masks. Sorry, John.
Mr. Moderator, Tom Reynolds, DPW Superintendent. Article 8 is current 2021 solid waste curbside collection and disposal and transportation expenses line items were estimated during the budget creation process based on the waste disposal contract in place at the time. After the 2021 budget was authorized, the waste contract was extended for an additional 2 years through an amendment process. As expected, the cost of waste collection and disposal increased dramatically due to the market-driven increases in disposal and recycling. The negotiations of the contract resulted in an increased collection, disposal, and recycling cost, now requires authorization of additional funding, initially supplemental funds of $700,000 for additional solid waste collection and $300,000 for disposal for waste curb collection, $300,000, and disposal and transportation, $400,000, was approved at the October 19, 2020 special town meeting. However, disposal and transportation costs to increase due to continued significant higher volume. In the last year, we've seen an increase in trash, not only here in Marshfield, but also throughout the whole South Shore. In Marshfield, we have a 10.2% increase in tonnage from last year and a 10% increase for the recycling tonnage. The cost of trash has gone from $73.61 a ton to $94, and recycling has gone from $43.30 to $90. So there's been a significant increase in both trash and recycling. There is no longer a market in recycling. The commodities market has really fallen apart, and that's the reason for the increase in costs.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reynolds. And now call upon the advisory board, Mr. McAleer.
Don McAleer, Winslow Cemetery Road. The advisory board recommends approval of this article. As Mr. Reynolds stated, after renegotiating the contract, the cost of recycling now equals the cost almost of rubbish disposal.
I am informed by the Board of Selectmen that they have voted unanimously to support this article. Is that correct? All right. At this time, we will go to the floor for any discussion, questions, or debate. I would tell you, with respect to any questions from this point forward till the end of the meeting, if you have a question, direct it to me, please. I will tell you or decide whether or not I can answer the question. If I can't answer the question, I will call upon someone here at the front of the hall or someone in a position of authority who can answer the question. But direct all questions to me. This is not a discussion between you and any of the board or committee members directly. Also, if you please, if you know the answer to the question that you're asking, rather than ask the question, just share the information with us that you have and tell us why we should either vote for a particular article or amendment or why we should vote against it. Things will proceed in a much more expeditious and orderly fashion if we do that. So I go to the floor, seeing no one at the mic. This requires a majority vote. All in favor, raise your hands. All opposed? It clearly passes by more than a majority. Thank you very much. Mr. Reynolds, we're on to 3. Article 3? Article 3. Article 3, the Board of Selectmen moves that the town vote to close out the Ball Fields Revolving Fund as of 6/30/21, that's June 30, 21, and transfer any remaining funds to the general fund, whereas all receipts received shall be considered general fund revenues. This is a Board of Selectmen's article. I recognize the Town Administrator, Mr. Moresco.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Michael Moresco, 201 Arlington Street. The ball field account can no longer be sustained by just fees alone. We've worked with the DPW to address this issue going into the next fiscal year. Town meeting has supported the building of the beautiful fields. It's important that we have the necessary funding to maintain those fields, whether it's irrigating, whether it's seeding, sanding, whatever needs to be done to keep the fields in pristine condition. So we need to take it out of the revolving account, make it a line item that will be put into the regular budget. And town meeting is the body that has the authority to dissolve the revolving fund. Thank you.
All right, I turn now to the advisory board presented by Mr. Pena.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Carlos Pena, 87 Canutri Way. Prior to voting on Article 3, we had a couple of questions, and we confirmed the following. The DPW will continue to maintain the fields. The schedule and use of the fields will be managed by the Recreation Department, and the Recreation Department will be setting, managing, and collecting the fees. The advisory board voted to approve the article. Thank you.
Thank you. Please remove your...
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. All right, Board of Selectmen, I am informed, voted unanimously to support this article. We go down to the floor, seeing no one at either mic. This requires a majority vote for passage. All in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? It clearly passes by more than a majority. What's the next article? 10. And what's on deck?
6.
And number 6 is on deck. Article number 10. The Board of Selectmen moves that the town vote to amend the Marshfield Town Code, Chapter 305, Zoning Bylaws, Article Roman numeral 5, Use Regulations as written under Article 10 of the April 26, 2021 Town Meeting warrant. This is a Board of Selectmen article. I recognize Mr. Moresco, Town Administrator.
Michael Moresco, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Michael Moresco, 201 Arlington Street. This article is brought forth by the Board of Selectmen. Board of Selectmen wanted to make sure that they were able to help out small businesses, especially the restaurants in the town of Marshfield. As folks know that have been following the pandemic and the work of the Board of Selectmen engaged and supported ABCC regulations allowing restaurants that normally don't have outside seating to have outside seating to be able to accommodate people and to be able to sustain their business. What they want to do with this particular article that's brought forward, those restaurants that by right are not allowed to have outside seating have it right now. That's because of the governor's executive order. If for some reason between now and December 1st, everyone was to get inoculated and suddenly the pandemic was in control, the governor could do away with his order, and then the businesses that are invested in outside furniture and whatever they needed for outside, then that would end. What this does, if approved by town meeting, and the board and myself hope that town meeting supports this will give certainty to those small businesses and those restaurants that no matter what happens, they'll be able to have outside seating through December 1st. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maresco. I turn now to the advisory board and recognize Mr. Scollins.
Thank you. Tom Scollins, Advisory Board. This has been a good collaboration between the town, the state, the Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission, allowing the town's restaurants the predictability of a time frame so that they can best make an educated decision if they want to make the temporary outdoor seating investment. I know I've enjoyed being outside at some of the town's restaurants. The Advisory Board recommends approval of this article by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you very much. The Board of Selectmen unanimously voted to support this article. I turn now to the floor. I do not see anyone at either microphone. This requires a 2/3 vote for passage. All in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? It clearly passes by more than 2/3. What's the next article? 6. Article number 6 is next, and what's on deck? 2. And Article 2 is on deck. Article 6. Now, I believe Article 6 and Article 11 are the two articles that I want to link. So with respect to Article 6, after we do it, we will go right to Article 11 of the special town meeting warrant, and then we'll come back to the other one. The Board of Public Works moves that the town vote to amend Marshfield Town Code General Bylaws, Chapter 95. I should put these glasses on. Finance and Budget Article Roman numeral 3, Annual Audit, Section 95-5, Supervision of Audit, by adding the following additional sentence to the end of existing language of Section 95-5 as follows. Such audits shall include a detailed examination of all enterprise divisions, accounts, including the actual cost basis of all general fund indirect charges and the basis of all enterprise division offset charges. This article is from the Board of Public Works, and I would recommend, or excuse me, not recommend, recognize Mr. Carrier.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. David Carrier, Vice Chair of the Board of Public Works, 34 Outlook Road. Brief rundown on this article. I first prepared it back for the special town meeting in fall of 2019. DPW staff neglected to get it brought forward at the time, and I have brought it into the arenas on several different occasions now. And why do we have to adjust this article? Well, as most of you know, the enterprise has been in existence since about 1991, and it's never actually had any detailed examination of the indirect charges. Make sure I get this right. I've got an excerpt here from the 2020 Comprehensive Annual Finance Report, which includes the auditor's statements from Powers Sullivan. And I briefly indicate that an audit is performing procedure to involve to obtain audit evidence about the amounts and disclosures in financial statements.
I'm going to drop down to what I consider to be the pertinent sentence in that paragraph. In making those risk assessments, the auditors consider internal control relevant to the entity's preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements in order to design audit procedures that are appropriate to the circumstance, but not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of the entity's internal control. Part of the reason that's driven me to this is back in fiscal 2009, there was an event. The prior year, I had been tracking the enterprise revenues as well as expenses, and I had an estimate of each of the enterprise indirect charges that was within 5% of what was actually presented to the DOR at the end of that year. And the following year, with a new town accountant, we were actually off by 100%. And when I examined the reason why, we would double charge that year for all of the indirect charges. The accountant was used to a system whereby those charges came at the end of the year, and in Marshfield at that time, we were taking them out month by month. When I presented that to her, she recognized it, but she said she was not going to go back to DOR at the time to correct it. And my position was, she was new to the job, okay, I wasn't going to hang her out to dry. I did point out that she knew we had the revenue, and all I wanted was whenever we were coming forward for something that required retained earnings, she recognized that and went forward in that manner. As you also know, in fiscal 2009, we experienced some overcharges in insurance, which were brought forward and tried to be corrected. In 2016, if you were at the fall special town meeting, you saw the accountant present a situation whereby there was significant retained earnings in wastewater, but not in water. And that was an error which she admitted at that time standing on the podium. She would present those figures only after they had been processed by DOR, and presumably DOR does not take any, our auditors don't come in and audit until after DOR has basically passed their judgment. I never heard anything through staff or anyone else at DPW to the effect that that was ever brought to our attention. Okay. The issue here is not any of the current financial team. Okay, I have great respect for Christine, for Patrick, and for Mike Moresco. They've been doing an excellent job. In general, the process has been better. But the issue is personality dependent when you look at it that way from the prior administration to the current administration of town. One of the ways to overcome that is to put it into a bylaw and require the audit so that personalities are eliminated from it. And that is my purpose here.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Carriero. At this time, I'll go to the advisory board. Recognize Mr. Scollins.
Thank you, Tom Scollins, Advisory Board. The town currently pays for an annual audit. Our thinking that if there was an issue, the Department of Revenue would have made us aware of it. The audit itself is extensive. I believe the last one is about 180 pages. Based on conversations with Mike Moresco and Patrick Del Russo, the town has paid into indirect costs about $450,000 over the past 3 years. We felt that if this article passed, it would be a duplication of efforts for that audit. So the advisory board recommends defeating this article by a vote of 8-0.
It's also my understanding that the Board of Selectmen unanimously voted not to support the article. Would a member of the Board of Selectmen like to address the meeting at this point?
Mr. Moderator, Michael Moresco, Town Administrator. On behalf of the Board of Selectmen, that is correct. The board voted no. Just very quickly, the issue being raised by the DPW through this article is open-ended, meaning there are no defined parameters to conduct the audit. As we heard, audit's expensive. It's already covered. The Commonwealth's Legal Division has written our town council informing the DOR will not be litigating local issues, and there's no problem with our policy as written. We make reasonable concessions on both sides, and over the course of 4 years, we have conceded $700,000 worth of common sense compromises and reduction to the adopted policy. This includes $256,000 direct cash infusion to the enterprise fund as a good faith measure in October 17th at the special town meeting, followed by $125,000 in 2020, $196,000 in 2021, and $126,000 in the current year. How do we do that? We sit down after we conclude town meeting, the annual and the special. I, myself, and Patrick sit down, our treasurer collector, with the DPW and a member of the Board of Public Works to go over any issues that they have. It's a living, breathing document. It's very huge policy to follow, but we're fair. Things that they think they're being overcharged for, the Board of Selectmen empowered me to make concessions, and we've made those concessions. Just finally, CAFR, the GFOA, and the DOR give us all clean letters with all of our finances being in order. If there are any problems with the DOR, they wouldn't set our tax rate. We've never had a problem setting the tax rate. And I don't think that town meeting or the ratepayers want to be charged an additional $80,000 or $90,000 to conduct the audit. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. At this time, we will go to the floor. I am going to give you some additional time at the end of the public debate and question period to respond to the advisory board and to respond to the Board of Selectmen. I recognize the gentleman at the rear microphone. Thank you for putting on the protective device. Please state your name and your address.
Eric Kelly, Peterson Path. I know we're talking about audits here, but I want to ask, is it an audit or are they looking for a forensic audit on this?
All right. Say your question again, Eric.
Are they looking for an audit, a regular standard audit, or a forensic audit?
All right. I can't answer that question. Can you answer that question, Mr. Carrier? All right. You'll have to address. You have to. Yeah, there you go.
This is an audit, it's an annual audit that will occur every year if this article passes tonight. It is not a forensic audit, which of course was passed at a prior meeting with a total of about $60,000 from the enterprise funds to support it, which is still outstanding.
Mr. Moderator, could I ask Mr. Carrier to remove the mask because it's hard hearing him speak with the mask on?
Well, we'll do our best. It's a trying time for everyone. But did you hear his answer to that question?
Roughly. If you could repeat it, that'd be great.
I will. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. This is an annual audit article, okay? This will be recurring each year as part of the annual audit if the article passes tonight, that we will examine the indirect charges as well as the offset charges. The forensic audit, which was voted in the prior town meeting, was a different article. As I recall, $60,000 was authorized, $20,000 from each of the enterprise funds. I was in the audience back then, and that money is still resident and authorized for town.
Do you have another question, sir?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kelly. I see no one at any mics, but I am going to ask that one of the mics that we use up here, can it be brought to Mr. Cusick sitting down? He approached me earlier and indicated that there was a medical reason why he could not come up to the mic here at the front of the hall. So can someone please, as an act of courtesy,
John did it.
all right, John Nash already beat you over here.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
You're more than welcome.
Folks, John Cusick, 12 Waterman Ave. I'm the chairman of the Board of Public Works. I'd like to address, just to give you an idea of how these indirects are shared costs or their overhead charges. In my own water bill, I'm paying 28% of my water bill just for this indirects. Just for the shared costs, 28% of my water bill. So we do need an audit of these enterprise accounts. In 2016, it was passed. Mr. Galvin said it was legal but improper. The selectmen never supported it. Therefore, we couldn't fulfill the forensic audit. Mr. Maresco mentioned, if you caught it, it was real quick, that they infused $256,000 into our account. Well, they actually owe us documented $512,000, which have paid us back $256,000. That was the double overcharges in the health line item. So it's time that we do have an audit. It's never, the enterprise accounts have never been audited. And it's something that needs to happen. I wish it had happened in 2016. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Someone want to get his microphone? Thank you very much, Mr. Cusick.
Thank you.
At this time, I recognize at the front podium Stephen Darcy, who's a member of the Board of Selectmen. He'll have 2 minutes because he's acting in the function of someone on the town meeting floor. Go ahead, Mr. Darcy.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Folks, we support auditing every single one of our accounts each year. And every single year, we hire Powers and Sullivan to review and audit all of our accounts and to conduct analysis, including the enterprise accounts. This report is a public record that is available online. Every single year, we submit this report and our indirect policy to the State Department of Revenue. The DOR reviews and certifies our indirect policy. Our current indirect policy in place was negotiated in part by someone who served on both the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Public Works. If the DOR found any issue or inconsistency with our indirect policy or this audit, they would refuse to certify our tax rate. And one thing I would like to clarify is that there seems to be some confusion in town between ratepayers and taxpayers. If you live in town, you're a taxpayer. If you use town water or town sewer or the town trash pickup, you're a ratepayer. So really, these are not two separate opposing forces, but really they're one group in the same. There's like a 98% overlap between the ratepayers and the taxpayers. So we're talking about the same folks here in town that we're trying to protect, and we're all on the same team here looking out for our residents. Right now, we pay $55,000 for our audit. We pay $30,000 for our financial review.
30 seconds.
For our financial review by the Government Financial Officers Association. So should this article pass, once you take into account the value of our employees' time, it'd be $109,000, which is enough to fund 2 full-time positions. And again, we'd be paying twice to do the same job. In a job that was done correctly the first time, it would be a waste of taxpayer dollars. So I urge you to vote against this article. Thank you.
All right. Does anyone else wish to speak from the floor, either in favor of or oppose opposition to this article? Yes, sir. If you'll go to this microphone, put your protective device on it, state your name and your address.
Robert Charnesy, 231 Hampstead Way. I'm on the Board of Public Works. I'm the 3rd member. I was one of the other person on the Methodology Development Committee with the selectmen who took my place for 2 years. This has been a very contentious issue over last 15 years, and I've been on the board most of the time. I was not going to speak tonight, but I just felt that I should stand up and say something because a third party coming in looking at an audit, and there's different types of audits. There's the audit at the 20,000-foot level, there's the audit at the 10,000-foot level, and the 5,000 and the 1,000. So I'm going to ask the question to Dave Carrier. What is the difference in the audit that you're talking about? Is it and what the selectmen are talking about? Is my understanding is the 10,000-foot level versus what Dave's asking for is something around the 100-foot level. There's 2 different levels of audits.
I understand.
And that's my question.
Right,
what is the level of audits that you're actually asking for, Mr. Carrier?
All right. Please direct your question to me.
All right, that's my question.
Thank you. Can you answer that question, Mr. Carey? Would you please?
The type of audit that we would be developing here is one that's going to get us down. It won't be quite the 100-foot level, but it would be the 500-foot level.
Yeah, you just speak up. Can you bring the mic closer to you? There you go.
Can you hear? Okay. This would be an audit at about what I consider to be about the 1,000-foot level should be necessary. As far as cost goes, the real cost is developed in the first year of this type of audit. Thereafter, it becomes more or less an incremental cost if it's done right by a reputable auditing firm that really knows their business. Mr. Darcy mentioned that basically it's all the same money because water and sewer and trash are revenue that is paid as a utility function versus what's paid in your taxes. Well, if you do a 1040 itemized deduction, the monies that reside in the enterprise division that should actually end up being in the general fund are something you cannot put down on your 1040 under itemized deductions. If an audit discovers them, as Mr. Cusick alluded to, the significant piece of his own water bill, then that means you get it there. Some of us are old enough to remember when the IRS code lets you take miscellaneous deduction, and I used to go through all of my wife's statements to pick out all of those little incremental cost of it, interest so that I could tack them on to the mortgage, because I don't want to give government a dollar more than it deserves. I want them to be as efficient as possible for the funds they have.
Can I make a last comment?
Do you have another question or a statement?
No, I just have a statement. I mean, my statement is that it is the financial team that we've been working with is wonderful. It wasn't a few years back. We did, Steve Robbins and myself and the superintendent and Rocco Longo developed the methodology, and since then it's really worked well. But the issue is there's nobody overseeing that and making sure that the methodology will work in the future. And that's what we're asking for, is that look at the methodology that we do have and have a third party look at it when they do the audit. And as Dave said, the first year could cost a little bit more, but from there it will go on. But at least put this issue to rest.
All right.
Thank you.
And you are urging the meeting, as I understand.
I'm urging the meeting to vote yes. Put this issue into the code of audits the way we should do an audit.
Thank you, Mr. Shaughnessy. If you could remove your protective device. Thank you. All right, this time we recognize Town Council Robert Galvin.
Robert Galvin, Town Council, 26 Aunt Lizzie's Lane. Because my name came up, I thought I ought to explain my position. When this forensic audit was passed at town meeting some years ago, I indicated to everybody then and to the Board of Public Works multiple times that I had no concerns about the legality of an audit. The only thing that I asked the Board of Public Works to do was to tell me against what standard the auditor would conduct the audit. And to date, no one has ever explained to me what standard the audit would be conducted against. Just like with the taxes, with your personal taxes, the IRS has a tax code. And when an audit is conducted, an auditor reviews the tax code and the entries on your tax returns and determines whether they were accurate or inaccurate, and then assesses the consequence. This article here again tonight, again, an audit is legal. I have no problem with that. I have no idea what standard against which they want it to be audited, as I did 5 years ago. My concern is that this is an article that looks to really identify indirect charges and set-offs, which is not the job of an auditor. That is the job of the Board of Public Works and the Board of Selectmen. They have that resolved in an indirect cost policy, which the two boards disagree on. Last fall, I suggested that the Board of Public Works meet with the Board of Selectmen. If they don't like the current policy, agree to pay for a new one, and we'll have a brand new policy against which an audit could be conducted. So that is the reason why I opposed then and why I would be opposed to this at this point now.
Thank you. I see no other people rising to speak from either the front or the rear microphone. Because two boards spoke in opposition to this, I will exercise my discretion, and I will give you 1 minute, Mr. Carrier, to rebut anything that was said.
My main objective here is something we should all want in government, and that is transparency in our financial process. Okay? The DOR specifically details those costs which can and cannot be charged as indirect costs. An example that we consider would be, for example, let's say that Water Enterprise Division personnel work straight time on some specific issue that would normally fall under the general fund. That would be an area in which offsets should be allowed. Whether they are allowed or not in the negotiation and positions that are taken between the Board of Public Works and the Board of Selectmen, that would be an auditable subject. Was that a general fund expense that should have ended up in Water Enterprise? That would be financial transparency. I encourage the meeting to please vote that manner. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, that closes the debate with respect to this particular article. So that you'll understand, it takes a majority vote to pass this particular article. It must have a majority vote. So all those in favor of this article, raise your hands. All those opposed? The article is clearly defeated. Let's go now to Article 11. Mr. Carrier, this was a citizen petition article. Is this now being withdrawn or passed over, or do you wish to proceed with it, since it addresses the same subject matter? All right, at this time, Article 11 is going to be passed over and be passed over indefinitely. I don't need a vote on that, do I? Take a vote on it. Okay. All in favor of the Article 11 being passed over, raise your hands. All those opposed? It passes unanimously. Now we'll go back to that article, the next article on the agenda. Which is it? Two. Two. The Board of Selectmen moves that the town vote to approve the transfer of the sum of $1,030,000 from certified free cash, the sum of $205,000 from water retained earnings, the sum of $205,000 from wastewater retained earnings, and the sum of $205,000 from solid waste retained earnings for a total disbursement of $1,645,000 for the items detailed in the chart set forth under Article 2 of the April 26, 2021 Special Town Meeting warrant. This is a Board of Selectmen article. I recognize Mr. Maresco, Town Administrator.
Michael Maresco, 201 Arlington Street. Very quickly, this article will move our free cash and retained earnings to pay for capital items such as the Munis software, as well as fund any necessary adjustments that had to be made. Many adjustments were to fixed cost, as we have said many times through the course of the year. Our state assessment, our insurance costs have accelerated higher than the 6% that we originally budgeted for. So we ask town meeting to support this article.
All right, call upon the advisory board, Mr. Polanski.
Keith Polanski, Advisory Board. We recommend approval. This article allows us in the special to fund these projects now and not wait until next year, which would be in July. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm informed that the Board of Selectmen voted unanimously to support this article. I go now to the floor. I see no one at either microphone. We'll proceed to a vote. This article requires a majority to be passed. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? The article passes clearly by more than a majority. The next article? Five. Article number 5, and what's on deck? Article 1 is on deck. Article number 5, the Board of Selectmen moves that the town vote to amend the Marshfield Town Code, General Bylaws, Chapter 184, peddling, and soliciting by increasing the fine set forth in Section 184-12 for any person who violates the provisions of Chapter 184 or does not obtain a local hawker peddler license issued by the town of Marshfield from $100 to $500 per day as described in the special town meeting warrant under Article Number 5. This is a Board of Selectmen article. I recognize Mr. Moresco, Town Administrator.
Michael Moresco, 201 Arlington Street. First off, Mr. Moderator, we need to amend the article. Under the bylaw, the maximum that we can raise a fee is $300, so I would ask town meeting first to amend this for striking $500 per day and inserting in place $300. The reason for this article, over the summer, Board of Selectmen, the police received numerous phone calls and complaints about a vendor that originally started off on private property down in Brant Rock, selling their wares. They had a state hawker peddler license. When they are not on private property but on government property, sidewalks, green areas, etc., they need to go to the town to get a special permit. They did not get a special permit. At that time, the only fee that could be assessed to them was a $100 fee, and they were not enticed by the threat of the $100 fee. So the Board of Selectmen wanted to increase that fee. Upon research came to our attention after the warrant was printed that the maximum we could go is from $100 to $300. So I'm asking town meeting first to amend this by just simply striking $500, inserting in place thereof the figure $300.
All right, I'm going to go now to the advisory board. We'll vote on the amendment in just a moment. I recognize Susan Tiskowitz. Did I say that correctly? Thank you.
Susan Tiskowitz, Woodford Circle. So as Mr. Moresco indicated, the proposed article will allow the town to increase the fees if somebody is non-compliant with the peddler's license requirement. The advisory board recommended approval of this article by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you very much. I'm informed that the Board of Selectmen unanimously voted to support the article. What we'll do now is we're going to the floor and we will entertain discussion or questions with respect to the amendment. If there are none, we'll vote on the amendment and then we'll take a second vote on the article as amended. Seeing no one at either microphone, this would take a majority vote to pass. The amendment essentially is to change $500 to $300 in the article. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, clearly passes by more than a majority. We go now to the main article as amended. I see no discussion from the floor with respect to that. This too requires a majority vote to pass. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, it clearly passes by more than a majority. At this time, we go to Article 1. The Board of Selectmen moves that the town vote to transfer from available funds an expenditure of $182.18 from the corresponding fiscal 2021 budget or transfer from available funds a sum of money for payment of unpaid bills incurred during the previous fiscal year as set forth on the listing of unpaid bills under Article 1 of the April 26, 2021 special town meeting warrant. This is a Board of Selectmen article. Recognize Mr. Moresco, Town Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Michael Moresco, 201 Arlington Street. This article is an annual article, and it's the only mechanism that we have to pay a bill outside of the current fiscal year. We're very pleased to have only one small bill missed out in which needs to be paid this evening. It's for $182.18, so urge town meeting to support paying of this bill.
Thank you very much. I turn now to the Advisory Board. Once again, Ms. Tiskowitz.
The advisory board also recommends unanimously this article by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you very much. I am informed the Board of Selectmen voted unanimously to support this article. We go now to the floor. I see no one at either microphone. We'll now go to a vote. To pass this requires a 9/10 vote, a 9/10 vote to pass. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? It clearly passes by more than 9/10. What's the next article?
7.
Article number 7. The Board of Public Works moves that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $1,570,000 to cover the cost of fiscal year 2021 solid waste, wastewater, and water enterprise expenses, and to meet this appropriation, transfer the sum of $770,000 from the solid waste enterprise retained earnings, the sum of $400,000 from the wastewater enterprise retained earnings, and the sum of $400,000 from the from the water enterprise retained earnings, said funds to be expended under the direction of the DPW superintendent and the general supervision of the Board of Public Works. This is a Board of Public Works article. Who will be speaking? Again, Mr. Reynolds. I recognize him, Superintendent, Department of Public Works.
Tom Reynolds, Superintendent, DPW. Mr. Moderator. This article is being submitted in an effort to identify the retained earnings that are to be used during fiscal year 2021 to offset the expenses for each of the 3 enterprise accounts.
Anything further?
Nope, that's it.
Brevity is the source of wit. Good for you. I turn now to the advisory board and Mr. Di Cristoforo.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The advisory board voted unanimous to approve this article as well. This is to ensure that the funding will be for forecasted bills to the end of the fiscal year.
If you could speak up, please, a little closer to the mic.
This will ensure funding for forecasted bills for the rest of the fiscal year for these 3 enterprise accounts. It's a common year-end accounting practice.
Thank you very much. The Board of Selectmen, I am informed, voted unanimously to support this article. I turn now to the floor. Seeing no one at either microphone, we'll go directly to a vote. Passage of this article requires a majority vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? It clearly passes by more than a majority. Do we have any business left? Article number 9. The Board of Public Works moves that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire by purchase, gift, or eminent domain, taking or otherwise, and further grant provided there is compliance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30B, as applicable, certain reciprocal cross easements for the purpose of vehicular and pedestrian access, for the installation, use, and maintenance of drainage facilities, and for the installation, use, and maintenance of utilities over various parcels and roadways with and adjoining Enterprise Park and adjoining lands affecting assessors parcels numbers E09-01-15, E09-01-17A, D09-01-09D, D09-01-35A, Rockwood Road, Progress Way, and Commerce Way, being more particularly described and shown on a plan of land prepared by Stenbeck and Taylor Incorporated, 844 Webster Street, Marshfield, Massachusetts, entitled Easement Overlay Plan, Enterprise Park, Marshfield, Massachusetts, dated February 10, 2021, and filed with the town clerk with no land damages paid by the town of Marshfield. I now recognize the Board of Public Works. Recognize Mr. Reynolds, DPW Superintendent.
Tom Reynolds, DPW Superintendent, Mr. Moderator. These easements benefit both the landowner and the town. It allows the town to utilize a private drainage basin owned by the VRT Corp. For stormwater storage and treatment from town land, the ball fields. Easement B allows the town to utilize the drainage pipe on private property of the VRT Corp. To convey stormwater from the town land to a detention basin on private land owned by the VRT Corp. Easement C allows the town to utilize drainage storage structures to be located along the property line and adjacent to easement D to treat and store stormwater from both town property and the private property owned by VRT Corp. Easement D allows VRT Corp. To utilize a drainage structure to be located adjacent to easement C on both town and private land owned by VRT for the collection and recharge of stormwater runoff. Easement E allows VRT Corp. To install and utilize a subsurface drain pipe to convey stormwater from adjacent land owned by the VRT Corp. Beneath the ball fields owned by the town to a common detention basin. Easement F allows the town to utilize a 900-foot walking path over private land from Rockwood Road to connect pedestrian access to walking trails throughout Enterprise Park. And then Rockwood Road allows the town to utilize Rockwood Road for access, drainage, and utilities for the adjoining town lands.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reynolds. Turn now to the advisory board. I recognize Ms. Costello.
Sherry Costello, Freshbrook Way. The advisory board recommends approval of this article. Basically, this gives the town access to drain into the basin from our system, and it gives the landowner access across our property to the same basin. This is a win-win for the town and the landowners as it provides outfall for the drainage.
Thank you very much, Ms. Costello. I'm informed that the Board of Selectmen voted unanimously to support this article. Turn now to the floor. I see a gentleman at the rear microphone. If you'll apply the protective device and state your name and address.
Joe Pasevich, 25 Wilson Road. Mr. Moderator, I'd like to know if there have been any costs identified with this, any costs to the town in terms of cash or in terms of exchanges.
Okay. I certainly don't know the answer to that question. Can you answer that question, Mr. Reynolds? Or
I can, Mr.
All right. Please do.
There is no cost to the town. This is a land, pretty much a swap of easements, allowing both the landowner to access across our property to the detention basin. It also gives us an outfall into the detention basin from our drainage system on site.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reynolds. I recognize another gentleman at the rear microphone.
Eric Kelly, Peace and Path. So are we taking over the areas that VRT used to own or maintain, I guess?
Can you be a little bit more specific?
Well, I mean, if I'm hearing it right, we're taking control of certain parcels and it all seems to tie into drainage. So is the town now taking over the drainage areas to do?
I can't answer that question. Can you answer that question, Mr. Reynolds?
I will try, Mr. Moderator. We're not taking over any of VRT's property. They're giving us an easement to dump our drainage runoff into a detention basin. And in exchange, we're giving them access across our parking lot to access that same detention basin.
All right, that's better. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kelly. All right, seeing no other people at either microphone, we're going to go directly to a vote. Passage of this particular article requires a 2/3 vote, 2/3 to pass. All in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? It clearly passes by more than 2/3. What's left? All right, we're going now to Article number 4. The Board of Selectmen moves that the town vote to transfer the sum of $915,876.02 from the unexpended balances of previously approved capital projects listed in the special town meeting warrant under Article 4 that were initially borrowed or appropriated with available funds to finance prior capital projects that are now complete and for which no further liability remains, to pay debt service on bonds or notes, and to be transferred to its original appropriation source, or to be further appropriated to a like project as described in Article 4 of the April 26, 2021 special town meeting warrant. This is a Board of Selectmen article. I now recognize Mr. Moresco, Town Administrator.
Michael Moresco, 201 Arlington Street. This is an annual close and transfer of fund article. We have some projects that came in under cost, which is always great for the town, and we're able to reappropriate those funds to like projects allowed under the law at no cost to the taxpayers. So this is projects that were funded, they went out to bid, they come in under cost, they've been completed, everything's been paid out. We're simply asking town meeting support. We do every year, we take the money from those projects, and it would be moved to a like project or closed out to the certain accounts as stated within the chart. We ask support of Article 4. Thank you.
Thank you. Recognizing the Advisory Board, I go to Mr. D. Cristofaro.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Paul DeCristofaro, George Street. The Advisory Board has voted unanimous to approve this article. It's pretty well stated in the text as well as Michael's explanation.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. I am informed the Board of Selectmen unanimously votes to support this article. I call to your attention the announcement that I made at the beginning of the meeting that Mr. Griffin, Chair of the Capital Budget Committee, had indicated the Capital Budget Committee had voted in support of any articles in which there was a capital expenditure on either the special town meeting warrant or the annual town meeting warrant, and it wasn't necessary to recognize them for each particular capital expenditure, which is being addressed here. At this point, we will go to the floor. I recognize the gentleman at the rear microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Speak way up, please.
Mike Fay, 169 Plymouth Ave.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions and maybe an amendment to this article. On February 26th, DPW submitted a dam and seawall application for the Ocean Bluff revetment. If anybody remembers, November 2019, Article 6, $350,000 was appropriated for the Ocean Bluff revetment engineering design process. That project is still outgoing. We're still waiting to hear back from the Dam and Seawall Fund in June and July. So what the Dam and Seawall Fund people told me is when a decision should be made. So it seems a little premature to close the article and move it to repairs only, because my understanding, then the town would have to go and reappropriate their funds in November. Is that true?
So your question is, if this article passes, that the town's going to have to reappropriate an additional amount of money to address the previous article?
My question is the $314,000 for the Ocean Bluff revetment being moved to repairs only, is that expanding the language to include for afterwards, everything all said and done, anything left over would be for repairs, or is that for repairs only?
All right, let me see. I'm going to recognize Mr. Moresco, Town Administrator. Looks like he might have an answer for you.
Michael Moresco, 201 Arlington Street. This particular article, we've been working with the DPW and DPW engineering staff. The money's being moved to repairs right now because the design phase is somewhere between $15 and $20 million for the overall project, and the funds simply don't exist right now. So we're moving that money to emergency repairs. So in the event that something comes up, there'll be funds to make those repairs for those homeowners.
All right, did I answer your question, Mr. Fay?
I have another question, Mr. Moderator, if I may.
All right, what is it?
If the Dam and Seawall Fund is approved, and the application was for $550,000, the state would pay 75% or $412,000, which means the town would have to come up with 25% or $138,000. Is that correct?
All right, can you answer that question, Mr. Maresco? Or?
Yes, I can, Mr. Moderator. If the event that does happen, we would love to see that happen. As folks know, when they did the capital projects back in November of 2019, there was $3.5 million for seawalls, and we would be able, and there's $2 million remaining, so the money would come out of that $2 million to cover that grant.
Did that answer your question, sir?
Yes, Mr. Moderator. At this time, may I move for an amendment?
All right. How long is your amendment? If it's more than 10 words, it needs to be in writing. Is it less or more?
I would like, well, with town council's ruling, either strike it completely or move the amount from $314,000 to zero.
Say again what the purpose of the amendment?
No funds be moved to repairs only. Keep it up as it was appropriated in November 2019, all $314,000.
All right. I've been advised by town council that that is a legal amendment. So, John, can you put the amended language up on, if it's, I have a hard time seeing the screen, I apologize for that, but can you put the amended language up?
He's proposing to make that 314
Yeah.
zero.
Right. Okay.
I don't know if it's, and I'll show John Nash.
We're going to see if we can get it displayed for you, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm just asking for the amount to go from 314 to zero. That's it.
We got it. We just want to see if we can get a visual display of that.
Thank you, sir.
Just give me a minute, Mr. Moderator, and I'll tell you what the minute.
That's going to change some of the other numbers, so you're just going to have to let us recalculate
That's
what
fine.
would happen if that amendment passes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. And I just want to let you know, after the amendment, you'll have 22 seconds.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, if they take that 314 out,
okay,
the total transfer to close will be 601,876.
Okay.
So I'll give you that, all right? And then you can tell the people what that's all about.
All right, so if you would look, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to follow this closer, we can't get a visual display for you, but if you would take out your warrants and turn to page 4. Turn to page 4, you're going to see a chart. It says STM closeout article. And if you go over to the far right column and go down under amounts, you're going to come to an amount, it's $314,000. And it says emergency repairs at Ocean Bluff seawall. So what Mr. Fay is proposing is the zero be there instead of $314,000. And that changes the total to transfer or close from $915,876.02 to $601,876.02. All right, that's what the amendment is intended to do and what will happen if the amendment passes. Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to the amendment or in favor of the amendment? All right, hang on just a moment. There's a gentleman back here, Chuck. All right, I recognize the gentleman at the rear microphone. This is speaking to the amendment only.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. I am in favor of this amendment.
Could you have your name and address, please?
Dan Fennelly, 454 Ocean Street.
Thank you.
I am in favor of this amendment. 2 years ago, the town meeting voted to appropriate $350,000 for a design of the Ocean Bluff revetment. Apparently, $34,000 have been spent, yet this article states that the different projects that are in this article have been completed. And if you look at the numbers, obviously this has not been completed. So I support this amendment to remove the amount of $314,000 from this article because it has not been completed, and I understand there may be additional monies coming to do this, which may allow the town not to use this money. But right now, I think it would not be prudent to cancel this project, which is basically what this is doing without the amendment. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Carrier, did you wish to address the meeting? Do you wish to address the meeting concerning the amendment? Mr. Carrier? And then we'll go to the rear microphone.
David Carrier, Vice Chair of the Board of Public Works. The purpose of this transfer is specifically to have some emergency fund which can be readily accessed so that if we have to reset revetment stone or bring in new revetment stone to protect this area and the adjacent homes or abutting homes on the waterfront, that's why we are searching this purpose. We are out seeking a grant for the designs to go forward. And as I believe Mr. Varesco pointed out, we have $2 million in seawall funding from which the 25% match could come forward. We will not have funding for an emergency repair if we do not have these monies. And one thing I would say is, as we all know, the cost for shorefront protection is significant to astronomical. And one thing I would encourage everybody at town meeting to do, write to your two federal senators, and also to your federal representative. Right now, everything I've seen in the new infrastructure bill being proposed by the current administration does not include anything for shorefront protection. And it's high time the federal government steps up with more money, more specifically for that purpose, rather than the annual song and dance we have to go through with the Corps of Engineers and FEMA.
So, Mr. Carrier,
I suggest to town meeting that you should defeat this amendment.
Thank you. Go to the rear microphone.
Joe Pasevich, Wilson Road. Simple question. We were at town meeting. We were told there was an estimated cost for a study to be done, which is sorely overdue and needed. Has the study been completed?
All right, repeat the name of the study for me, Mr. Pasevich.
They call it the revetment design.
All right, I can't answer that. Mr. Carrier, can you answer that question? Would you please do so?
The study has been completed and has been provided to the proponents. Okay, that is not design. It is conceptual information on the study and options that are there, but it is not a detailed design, which would be, one, we have to pick one, and two, all of them are very expensive and certainly not something that right now I believe we can afford from a capital basis at this particular town meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Carrier. Do you have another question, Mr. Pasevich?
Yes, I do. We're being told that this is going to be the only money available for emergency repairs if there's a problem there. Is that true? Are there any other funds available for emergency repairs from the state or from some other source?
Well, until proven to the contrary, anything that's said either on the floor or by a board up here, I take as true unless you can prove it different. But can you address that, Mr. Carrier?
If we have failures at other seawalls and locations, we will scrounge funds from someplace. This is specifically set up to address the Ocean Bluff area because that does not have a seawall. It is all stone and revetment, which is more subject to displacement and movement when you have severe northeast storms. And that is the reason for trying to dedicate that cash to that purpose.
Do you have another question, Mr. Pasevich?
No, I do not. I urge passage of the amendment.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, there's someone standing behind this. Is that Mr. Fay again?
Yes, sir.
All right, you're the proponent for the amendment. Hang on, I'm going to recognize one other person, then I'll let you sum up on the amendment. Recognize Mr. Moresco, Town Administrator.
Michael Moresco, 201 Arlington Street. Just, I concur with Mr. Carrier's explanation that everything that he had said about the emergency repairs is correct. This will go in for emergency repairs while we're waiting to try to identify the huge cost of replenishing with the revetment in that particular area. And we have $2 million, as I mentioned earlier, in a fund that if we get that grant, we can do the match. So I urge town meeting to vote down this amendment.
All right, Mr. Fay, I'll give you 30 seconds to sum up.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. In November of 2020, $100,000 was appropriated to make emergency repairs in Ocean Bluff. A small portion, $10,000 to $20,000, was held back for emergency repairs. 8 days, the repairs were done all along the entire revetment. About 15% is down. It's holding pretty good after 4 noristas, 2 hit within 3 weeks. I spoke to a state official who said that the Mass DOT, because of Ocean Bluff's revetment running along a state-owned road, a designated evacuation route, Mass DOT, EEA, and Department of Public Utilities would help in an emergency funding. I have an email to prove that. Also, there's an outstanding claim of $8 million from FEMA.
Mr. Fay, you've exhausted your time, sir.
Please, sir, if I can just say this. It takes 2 seconds. Thank you, sir. There's an outstanding claim of $8 million from FEMA that FEMA is hesitant to approve, and that would be 40% of the $20 million project for the long-term repairs of Ocean Bluff.
Thank you, Mr. Fay. All right, we're going now to a vote on the amendment. All you're voting on is the amendment, and on that chart, to reduce the figure of $314,000 to zero, and to change the total figure down at the bottom from $915,876.02 to $601,876.02. The amendment requires a majority to pass. All those in favor, raise your hand. This is if you are in favor of the amendment. All those opposed? The amendment's clearly defeated. We now go to the main article, and let's go directly to a vote. I see no one else at the microphones. This also requires a majority vote for passage. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? It clearly passes by more than a majority. What's the next article? All right. I am informed by all of the people to my right, including the town clerk, Mr. Fitzgerald, and also town council, that we have concluded the business of the special town meeting. At this time, I hereby ask for a vote that the special town meeting of the 2021 spring special town meeting be dissolved, all business on the town meeting warrant having been concluded, and that we return to the business of the annual town meeting. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? All right, clearly passes by more than a majority. We're going now to the annual town meeting and to that consent agenda first. But before we do that, why don't we all stand up and stretch, if we can, for just a minute? Just a minute. All right, no more than that, but we have been sitting for a while. Don't go anywhere. All right, we're now going to the annual town meeting warrant. The first item of business is going to be the consent agenda, and for the reasons previously indicated in my remarks earlier this evening, I am stepping down with the permission and acknowledgement of the town clerk and with permission of town meeting members. And we're going to allow Mr. Jim Fitzgerald, former moderator, we're fortunate to have him, conduct this portion of the annual town meeting, and I will return once the consent agenda has been dealt with. Thank you very much, Mr. Fitzgerald.
Good evening, everybody. Nice to be back. For $300, I might actually stick around instead of the $92. So, we'll see how that goes. This is the consent agenda. I've got two motions, the first of which is with what we are approving or disapproving for regular articles, and then I have 3 articles that are being withdrawn. So if you're looking at your purple handout, which is where the consent agenda is, on the second page of the handout, there's the withdrawn articles, and one of them, there was 2 articles there, 16 and 18, but actually Article 14 is also going to be added to that list. So I'm going to read the motion. I'm going to call out the numbers of the articles, but I'm not going to read the articles. If somebody has a question about a particular article, yell out question, we'll put that aside and we'll go through the others and we'll come back and answer your question and hopefully proceed with retiring these articles through the consent agenda. So I move that the town vote to take out of order Articles 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, the first 4 motions under Article 13, which is dealing with the mandatory set-asides and administrative fees and expenses for the CPC fund, and Article 17, and that they be passed by consent in accordance with the motion shown on the 2021 Marshfield Annual Town Meeting consent agenda as made available to the town meeting's attendees. So seeing no questions, we're going to go to a vote on the consent agenda. This is a majority vote. All in favor of the consent agenda as motion, raise your hand. All opposed? I declare that that passes with a majority. And my second motion is I move that the town vote to take out of order Articles 14, 16, and 18, and that each article shall be indefinitely postponed. So those are being withdrawn. Seeing no questions, I'll call for a vote on my article or my motion to indefinitely postpone those articles. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed? I declare that passes by a majority.
Yeah, I saw that. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Fitzgerald. We are very, very fortunate to have him fill in situations such as this. Now, under the bylaws, the codified bylaws of the town of Marshfield, we are now going to go to the budget articles. This is going to be Article 3 and Article 4. Article 3 is the omnibus budget article, operating budget. Article 4 is the capital budget. And then after we deal with those 2 articles, we will go to the lottery, but not until we finish these. So we're now going to the Article number 3 of the annual town meeting warrant. And hang on here just a moment. The Board of Selectmen moves that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $114,933,143 to number 1, defray the charges, expenses, and salary obligations of the town as shown in the annual town meeting warrant under Article 3 and further described in appendices B, C, and D, including debt and interest, and out-of-state travel for the ensuing year, and number 2, provide for a reserve fund and to fix salaries and compensation for all elected officers of the town as set forth in Article 2 of the April 2021 annual town meeting warrant for fiscal year 2022, which begins July 1, 2021, and ending on June 30, 2022. And to meet said appropriation, one, transfer the sum of $1,496,207 from water revenues, wastewater revenues, and solid waste revenues supported by the enterprise funds for indirect costs and charges. Number two, transfer the sum of $815,463 from the following reserve accounts: the sum of $60,000 from the Cemetery Perpetual Care Fund, the sum of $30,000 from the Wetlands Protection Fund, the sum of $25,000 from the licensing and keeping of dogs, the sum of $30,000 from the Waterways Fund, the sum of $400,000 from the Solar Array Fund, the sum of $67,190 from the Cost of Aging State Grant account, the sum of $103,273 from the Council on Aging GATRA account, and the sum of $100,000 from the Overlay Reserve account. Number three, appropriate the sum of $100,862.913. I'll say that again. $100,862.913 to be raised from taxation and other receipts. And number four, further raise and appropriate the sum of $2,882,448 for direct charges from wastewater revenues, and transfer $400,000 from wastewater retained earnings, the sum of $3,675,955 for direct charges from water revenues, and transfer $425,000 from water retained earnings, and the sum of $3,885,157 for direct charges from solid waste revenues, and transfer $490,000 from solid waste retained earnings. This is a Board of Selectmen article. I recognize Mr. Maresco. Now, also, since this is the operating budget, it is tradition that we allow the school department to also address the meeting at this time. And because this is one of the largest, if not the largest, appropriations that we make in town meeting, I will allow each of them to have some extra time if they require it to present the budget and how it affects the various sides of the budget, the town and the schools. So I recognize first Mr. Maresco, Town Administrator.
Mr. Moderator, thank you. Michael Maresco, 201 Arlington Street. First off, all budget and COLAs are fully funded per union contracts and agreement. The budget presentation has specific details. It's online and has presented on 2 occasions, and I can present it tonight at town meeting. All funds are appropriated for the 6 nonprofits that are included in the budget. We emphasize that we have a balanced budget that addresses all the needs of the town departments. We have met with each department, as we typically do, on at least 2 occasions prior to submitting this document. In the essence of time, Mr. Moderator, I have done the budget presentation a number of times for the advisory board, a couple of times for the Board of Selectmen. It's been up online since January, and in the essence of time for town meeting, if it's acceptable, I will pass on making the presentation. I think it's pretty straightforward. I think people have looked at it, and I'm happy to do it if it's the will of town meeting, but I don't want to waste people's time either.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Maresco. That's your decision. Mr. Granatino, does the schools wish to make a presentation at this time? Recognize Mr. Granatino, Superintendent, Marshfield Public Schools.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and thank you, Mr. Maresco. I, too, want to be brief. I do feel, though, especially based on your comments there, that, you know, the educational budget is one of the larger parts of the operating budget for the town. So I would feel remiss if I didn't have just a chance to say a few things. I have a few slides up, and I don't know, John, if you could go to slide 13 of that presentation. I will just go over my comments as quickly as I can. And I guess I'll start off before John gets to that page, just to again, and I will try to keep this within the 5 minutes, if not quicker. This has been a very challenging year for everybody, obviously, with the pandemic. The school district, along with the town, has worked very hard to meet the needs of our students, their families, in the middle of uncharted territory here. And I just want to quickly thank, first of all, the taxpayers of Marshfield for all the support they've given us in the past town meetings, in the special town meetings in the fall, the Board of Selectmen, the advisory, all the folks who have worked behind the scenes, capital, budget committee, Mr. Moresco, Mr. Della Russo, their financial team, what we've been able to do as a district this past year under these real challenging times couldn't have happened if it wasn't for them. And I also want to say that about the school committee, who has worked diligently throughout the last year. And every time we have one thing set, it moves to another thing that we have to deal with the pandemic, like every other town and every other school district. So I just want to thank them. And most importantly, I want to thank our students and their families, because they've had to adjust and adapt, along with our teachers and our administrators throughout the year. And they've done a remarkable job. Very briefly, and I'll go through this. Last year, we received a 2.5% increase to our budget last year. It brought it to $51 million. Even during this pandemic, when things have been a challenge, we were able to, again, meet our obligations to full-day kindergarten. We were able to meet our contractual obligations to ensure all the students had access to Chromebooks, and that was no easy feat. K through 12, students had access to either to iPads or Chromebooks to get them through the remote and hybrid part of education this year. We were able to get additional nursing coverage and additional custodial coverage, two very important areas to keep our children safe and our buildings clean and disinfected. We were able to fund our fully remote program that addressed the needs of over 250 students, I think, total K-12 that worked remotely throughout the year. We were also able to supply all schools and staff with needed PPE materials. And we added, actually, in the middle of this, thanks to the support in the special town meeting, added 2 new school resource officers. So now we have 3 in the district from elementary level, covering our elementary schools, our middle school, and our high school. And throughout this, the Wi-Fi connections in the district were able to be enhanced, which never were more important this year because of the pandemic and because of hybrid and remote learning. The next page, if we could go. Most important thing about this budget is it is a level services budget. Usually I'm here looking for items off of our financial plan to meet our needs-based budget, but this year, based on obviously the challenges that all communities have had, we understand that there's been a shortage in revenue for all communities, and we are not looking to have any needs-based enhancements as a part of this budget. The budget itself is a $52,577,000 budget. It is a 3.09% increase, and I want to thank again Mr. Moresco and Mr. Della Russo. They worked with Mr. Miller, our Assistant Superintendent for Business, from the fall, starting in September on this, and we were able to come up with a number that met our needs, that was going to meet our obligations for our projected salary increases, our operational increases, and in those 2 areas, those are the only increases we had. We did not add any programs within this, and we were able to do this with a lot of help not only from the town, but from obviously federal and state grants that came forward during the pandemic. If we go to page 16, John. So again, our final number, which was voted by the school committee back in January and has not changed. Usually we're making changes throughout the year. It stayed at $52,577,000 from the get-go. This is a level service budget. And while we have, if you looked at all of our increases in the operational and in the salaries, our number actually doesn't meet that number. And so what we're looking to do is, through additional federal funding, we haven't received our ESSER II grant yet, which we'll be getting along with districts across the state and country. And through circuit breaker funding, we're going to be able to meet those needs, even though, in essence, we're about $1.2 million short on our fixed costs. But we're going to be able to handle that without any other increases to the operating budget. So, again, I know time's of the essence here, but I just felt I wanted to share that with you because the educational budget is such a big part of this night. And I want to thank the town for their support that they've given to us each year here. And I'm proud of the work that the folks in this district have done. And I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Granatino. Recognize the advisory board now, Mr. Scollins.
Thank you. Tom Scollins, Advisory Board. This is what we spend the most of our time on, working with Michael, Patrick, Christine, and we talk to every department in town, whether it starts with school, police, and fire, all the way down to Clam Flats. And the Advisory Board recommends approval of this article by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you very much, Mr. Scollins. I am informed that the Board of Selectmen voted unanimously to support this article. What we're going to do now, or what I'm going to do now, is to use a modified approach so that we can look at some of these individual items, but we're going to look quickly. So if you will turn to page 2 of your warrants, you're going to see a chart, and it goes over to page 3, and it keeps going, to page 4, 5, 6, 7, and concludes on page 8, and you see the totals there. What I'm going to do is I'm simply going to go by what are called department numbers. So if you look at page 2, under the first department, you see that of moderator. That's Department 121. So I'm going simply to say moderator, Department 121. And you'll see that there is $300 recommended by the advisory board. I'm not going to read the $300. I'm not going to read, as we go down through here, what's been appropriated for each department for personnel and expenses. If you have a question or you want further discussion on a particular item, whether it's expenses for personnel or personnel, all you have to do is indicate by saying question or hold, and just do it as loud as you can so that we can recognize which particular article we need to come back to. After we get through all of these, I will then entertain some additional discussion if any discussion is necessary. If not, we will vote on the articles or the individual ones that you had no questions or hold, and then we'll come back and we'll see what we need to tidy up. So it was a long explanation, and I hoped it made sense, but that's what we're going to do. So, Department 121, moderator, any questions? Hearing none. Selectmen, Department 122. Accounting, Department 135. Assessors, Department 141. Treasurer Collector, Department 145. Legal Court Judgments, Department 151. Human Resources, Department 152. MIS/IT, that's Information Technology, Department 155. Town Clerk, Department 161. Elections Town Meeting, Department 162. Conservation, Department 171. Planning Board, Department 175. Going now over to page 4. Oh, come on. Bear with me, I can't get these pages unstuck. There we go. Police Department, Department 210. Fire Department, Department 220. Building Department, Department 241. Sealer of Weights, Department 244. Animal Control, Department 292. Animal Inspector, Department 293. Harbor Master, Department 295. Schools, Department 301. DPW Administration, Department 400. Question, okay. We'll come back to that. DPW Engineering, Department 411. Highway, Department 421. Maintenance, Department 449. Cemetery, Greens and Trees, Department 491. Going over now to page 6. Personnel, that's Department 424. I'm sorry, my mistake. 424 is fuel, my mistake. Fuel, 424. Board of Health, Department 510. Council on Aging, Department 541. Veteran Services, Department 543. Library, 610. Veterans Memorial, Department 660. Historical Commission, Department 691. Clam Flats, Department 693. Culture and whoops, no, my mistake. Next department is Reserve Fund, 132. Snow Removal, Department 423. Facilities, Department 123. General Insurance, Department 910. Health and Life Insurance, Department 912. Unemployment Compensation, Department 913. Medicare, Department 914. Retirement, Department 911. Audit, OPEB, and Payroll, Department 149. Over now to page 8. And it looks like Department 820, State Assessments. County Assessments, Department 830. Unclassified, Department 940. Utilities, Department 924. And those are all of the departments then that we've gone over on the operating budget. We have one to come back to. I'll now entertain any discussion from the floor with respect to any of the articles, not the one that was the hold, but any of the other articles for which there was no question. Seeing no one at either microphone, I'll now go to a vote on the articles that were not questioned or held. It requires a majority vote. All in favor indicate by raising your hand. All those opposed? All those, it clearly passes by more than a majority. We'll now go back to the one item that was, or one department that was questioned. This is on page 5. It's DPW Administration, Department 400. Recognize Mr. Carriere.
My question actually is under the omnibus number that's up here, under the 114,933,143. I used administration for DPW as my segue in. We had an extensive discussion, including in writing, about using retained earnings to offset rates and examining Appendix E. I do not see anywhere in there that we actually have budgeted that into this year. And I question that since last year you had a special town meeting similar to the one we just did, which the DOR questioned why we were doing what we were doing, and I thought we had a discussion, and this, Mr. Moderator, is directed through to you, to Mr. Maresco, to where we were going to specify our budgeted amount in this annual warrant for amelioration of rates, which is basically the use of retained earnings to help offset a portion of the budget that normally would be billed to the ratepayers.
All right, so that is your question precisely then. What's the question you are putting for me?
The question is, where are we showing the amounts that were budgeted by DPW staff for the amelioration of rates of wastewater, water, and solid waste?
All right, I can't answer that question. Can you answer that question, Mr. Maresco or Mr. Della Russo?
Mr. Moderator, I'm going to defer to Mr. Della Russo, our Treasurer Collector and Finance.
All right, I'll recognize Mr. Della Russo, Treasurer Collector.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Patrick Della Russo, 8 Parsons Walk. In Appendix C, there's a detailed explanation of
E or D?
C, as in cat.
C as in
Yep.
Charlie, okay.
C as in cat, which outlines the total expenditure budget in the warrant, right? Further, the motion carried on the screen above you here indicates how that gets funded. And at the bottom of that motion, since I authored it, will clearly tell you that the use of retained earnings, right, which is available in funds, which I stated at the beginning of the meeting, right, those use of the retained earnings are doing exactly what you guys wanted to do, except we're doing it inside of a motion, right, in which you have the funding for upfront, which is what the DOR wanted, right? So we're eliminating the problem with the Department of Revenue, which we've gone back and forth with amicably back and forth, just having general discussions. This eliminates the problem forever by doing the motion this way. The article is funded by the motion, right? That's how Article 3 always happens. And I'm very confident that the method that we did, we elected to move the motion this year, should satisfy DOR, DPW, and the town.
So I answer your question, Mr. Carrier.
I think I need some clarification, Mr. Moderator, if I might.
Direct it to me, and let's see if we can get it for you.
Well, the clarification, I want to be sure that we're, what I'm specifically looking at, and I will look at the last line, which says, let's see, the sum of $3,885,157,000 of direct charges from solid waste revenues and transfer $490 from solid waste retained earnings. And to me, there would be the purpose into that budget line item for the purposes of deferring, charges. And that's where I think my confusion comes from when I read that. That doesn't specifically reference that it is the amelioration of rates.
All right, thank you very much, sir. All right, so with respect now to 400, which is the department that you questioned, are you substituting any figures that are shown in 400, or are you addressing in a more general way the original
I am
motion?
addressing the motion because I needed clarification for exactly what was being used as retained earnings for amelioration of rates. And there is no opportunity within the DPW because all of the referenced enterprise is in a set of appendixes rather than in that omnibus motion.
Okay. So with respect to 400, though, can we take a vote on that and pass that?
Yes, you may.
All right. So with respect to Department 400, which was the only department which was held or questioned, I would entertain a vote. It takes a majority to pass that particular element of the operating budget. All in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, it's clearly passed by a majority. So at this juncture, we have gone over all of the individual departments, and I would now need a vote on the motion itself, the main motion, I believe we've already gone to you, Mr. Scollins, did we not? Good. All right, so the selectmen are unanimous in their support of it. It requires a majority vote for passage. All those in favor, raise your hands. All those opposed? All right, clearly passes by more than a majority. We're on now to Article number 4, which is the capital budget. The Capital Budget Committee moves that the town vote to authorize the treasurer, with approval from the Board of Selectmen, to borrow under Chapter 44, Section 7 of the general laws the sum of $2,500,000, transfer the sum of $60,000 from certified wastewater retained earnings, and transfer the sum of $80,000 from solid waste retained earnings as listed in the spreadsheet published under Article 4 of the April 26, 2021 Annual Town Meeting warrant under fiscal year 2022 Capital Budget Committee recommendation, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto, and to meet this appropriation, the treasurer collector, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, is authorized to borrow said amount in accordance with the provisions of the general laws, and that any premium received by the town upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, if any, less any such premium applied to the payment of the cost of the issuance of such bonds or notes may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this vote in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 20 of the general laws, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs by a like amount. This is a capital budget committee article, and again, I would extend to Mr. Griffin or any member of the capital budget committee if they want to address the meeting on this particular article. Well, someone got up, but not going the right direction. So again, the Capital Budget Committee previously indicated that they voted in support of this particular article. I will go now to Mr. D. Cristofaro of the Advisory Board.
The Advisory Board has also voted unanimously to pass this article as written.
Thank you very much, Mr. D. Cristofaro. We are now, I can tell you the Board of Selectmen unanimously voted to support this article. We'll go to the floor. I don't see anyone at either microphone. This requires a 2/3 vote for passage. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? It clearly passes by more than 2/3. Having completed the budgetary articles, we'll now return to the lottery. And what is the next article? All right. Article number 8 is up, and Article 13 is on deck. It's now, let me just tell you before we go to 8, it's now 9:17. How many articles do we have left? We have 7 articles left, and I think we can push through the remaining 7 articles. If we get closer to 10:30 and we still have a little bit of discussion, I will move that we suspend the rules and go beyond 10:30 so we can finish in one night and don't have to come back tomorrow. Article number 8. The Planning Board moves that the town vote to amend the Marshfield Town Code, Chapter 305, Zoning Bylaws, Section 305-6.08, other general dimensional and density provisions by adding a new subsection number 5 as written under Article 8 of the April 26, 2021 Annual Town Meeting warrant. This is a Planning Board article. I recognize Mr. Guimond, the town planner.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Greg Guimond, Ice House Lane. With the support of the building commissioner, this change would allow ADA access setback requirements in the town bylaw to match the state exemptions. The planning board voted 5-0 to support this article. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, sir. Going now to the advisory board, recognize Mr. Scollins.
Tom Scollins, Advisory Board. The Advisory Board recommends approval of this article.
Thank you very much. The Board of Selectmen voted unanimously to support this article. I go to the floor. Is there someone at the rear microphone? Now there is. Recognize the gentleman at the rear microphone.
Good, Joe Pasevich, 25 Wilson Road. In regards to Section 15.04 floodplain permits.
It's not this article.
I think that's the wrong article, Mr. Pasevich.
Wrong article.
I'm just wondering under that section if there are any provisions for de minimis activities, you know, very minor activities that might not have to go through the full permitting process.
I think you're addressing the wrong article.
Oh.
We're on Article 8.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got ahead. It's related, but I got ahead. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Anyone else? Seeing no one at either microphone, this requires a two-thirds vote for passage. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? It clearly passes by more than two-thirds. What's the next article? 13. Article number 13, and who's on deck? And who's on deck? 12 is on deck. All right, now with respect to Article 13, you have already passed as part of the consent agenda, motion number 1, motion number 2, motion number 3, and motion number 4. So at this time, I am going to recognize, well, I should read them, I guess, that would be best. Starting with motion number 5. These are all from the either going to be from the Recreation Department or Community Preservation Committee. So with respect to, Bob, do I need to read each one?
Yeah, read each one.
Okay. Motion number 5. The Recreation Department moves that the town vote upon the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee to appropriate the sum of $121,000 from the fiscal year 2022 estimated Community Preservation Fund revenue to fund the cost of capital improvements to playgrounds at Coast Guard Hill, said funds to be expended under the direction of the Recreation Director. This is the Recreation Department. Recognize, who's that over there? Hi, how are you doing?
Fantastic.
It's fantastic. Yes, Mr. Cantwell.
Kevin Cantwell, Chairman of the CPC, 20 George Street, Marshfield, Mass. This first article, number 5, is $121,000 for a playground at Coast Guard Hill, Recreation Department. The playground will be for ages 5 through 12, which will enhance the programming offering by the Recreation Department.
All right. We turn now to Mr. McAleer of the Advisory Board.
I know. Anyway. The Advisory Board recommends approval of this article. This article is going to provide playgrounds for children in the Hummerock area and also support a lot of summer programs.
Thank you very much, Mr. McAleer. The Board of Selectmen voted unanimously to support this article. We go down to the floor. I don't see anyone at either microphone, so we are going to go to a vote. Wait a minute. There's some at the rear microphone. Please go to these microphones quickly. The gentleman at the rear microphone.
Excuse me, Eric Kelly, Piece of Path. What is, when this gets built, who's going to be maintaining it?
Can you answer that question, Mr. Cantwell?
Well, the Recreation Department is being built, so the Recreation Department obviously has the oversight on that, but the DPW has a care and custody of the fields and playgrounds in the town of Marshfield, as you know, Mr. Kelly. Thank you.
You have another question?
I do, because there's some concerns in regards to all the playgrounds, especially around the schools and all that. So I was just wondering, is there going to be a maintenance program in regards to the playground and the upkeep of it?
Well, we're just talking now about the playgrounds at Coast Guard Hill.
Correct.
All right. So you want to know if there's going to be a maintenance schedule or maintenance program?
Yeah, please. Yes, please.
Can you answer that question, Mr. Cantwell?
That's outside of my expertise. I am pretty smart, but that's not mine.
Is there anyone here from the Department of Public Works that would care to address that? I see Mr. Reynolds rising to his feet, Superintendent of the DPW.
Tom, I helped you out.
Mr. Moderator, Tom Reynolds, DPW Superintendent. The Recreation Department is responsible for the playgrounds under their control, like Library Plaza, and I would believe that this one would also fall under Recreation's responsibility. DPW maintains the playgrounds that are in the vicinity of the school grounds. the Tower Ave Playground, the Hills Playground, that are on DPW properties.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. Does that answer your-
That's it, thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other people at the microphones, we're now going to go to a vote. This requires a majority vote for passage. All those in favor, raise your hands. All those opposed, it passes clearly by more than a majority. Motion number 6, the Board of Public Works moves that the town vote upon the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee to appropriate the sum of $110,000 from the fiscal year 2022 estimated Community Preservation Fund revenue to fund the cost of capital improvements to town-owned ball fields and playgrounds, said funds to be expended under the direction of the Board of Public Works. This is an article from the Community Preservation Committee. I recognize Mr. Cantwell.
Yes, as Mr. Gibson said, this article will provide $110,000 to fund the improvements and equipment replacement of the town's ball fields and playgrounds. These are capital improvements. It's not maintenance. This area where we're doing the up in Marshfield Hills, the playground up there, that will be approximately $65,000 appropriated for the capital improvements there, and also there are some improvements to be made to basketball courts and backboards throughout the town.
All right, thank you very much. I turn now to the Advisory Board, Mr. McAleer.
Advisory Board recommends approval of this, and we just would repeat what Mr. Cantwell said, the resurface basketball courts and the redo a playground in Marshfield Hills.
Thank you very much, Mr. McAleer. The Board of Selectmen voted unanimously to support this article. We go down to the town floor, or the meeting floor. I see no one on either microphone. We're going now to a majority vote for passage. This requires a majority vote to pass. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, it clearly passes by more than a majority. Motion number 7. The Marshfield Police Department / Marshfield Beaches moves that the town vote upon the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee to appropriate the sum of $30,000 from the fiscal year 2022 estimated Community Preservation Fund revenue to fund the cost of new or additional beach Moby mats. Again, this is from the Conservation Preservation Committee. I recognize Mr. Cantwell.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Item number 7 will expend $30,000 from the fiscal year 2022 Community Preservation Fund revenues to purchase additional Moby mats to provide access at the Green Harbor and Wrexham public beaches. If people have been down to the beaches, they see the rubber mats. I mean, they're a big hit in the town, and I urge you to support this.
All right, we go now to the Advisory Board, Mr. McAleer.
Advisory Board recommends you approve this. It's going to provide much safer and better access to the beaches, and people really want to enjoy the beaches, so this is just a great thing.
Well, thank you very much. The Board of Selectmen voted unanimously to support this article. Go to the town meeting floor. Don't see anyone at either microphone. We'll go to a vote. This requires majority vote for passage. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? It clearly passes by more than a majority, and that is all of the rest of that particular Article 13. What is next?
Thank you.
Article number 12. Thank you, Mr. Cantwell. Article number 12, the Historical Commission moves that the town vote to amend the Marshfield Town Code, Chapter 118, Historic Preservation, by amending the existing language of the bylaw as set forth below. A, by amending Section 118-2, definitions, historically significant building, structure, or property by deleting the word, and in parentheses, number 50, in the definition of historically significant building, structure, or property, and inserting in place thereof the word, and in parentheses, number 75, and leaving the remainder of the definition unchanged, and by amending Section 118-6, responsibility of owners, by asserting a new subsection D as follows. D, in the instance of approval of the demolition of the property, the owner shall complete the demolition within 2 years of the date of the approval. This is sponsored by the Historical Commission. Who speaks in favor of this article? Hi, please come to the podium. Bob. Recognize Cindy Castro. Thank you.
Good evening, Cindy Castro, Ashburton Ave, Brant Rock, co-chairman of the Marshfield Historical Commission. We're asking to make these changes. We currently have, anybody has to come before us if their building is more than 50 years old. We feel since most of us on the commission are reaching that age, that we should change that to 75. It doesn't seem significant that most of those houses within that for us, for that. And
Yeah,
then
just speak right into the microphones.
and then secondly, that we're finding more and more realtors or homeowners have come before us, and they're just asking to have their house demolished to add to the value of selling the property. So we would like to change that to have a condition of 2 years you have to demolish the building in order to stop that, and actually have people who really want to demolish their homes and build a new home to enjoy in Marshfield. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cindy. Now turn to the advisory board, Ms. Tiskowitz.
Susan Tiskowitz, Whitford Circle. So as the Historical Commission explained, this article will redefine the age of historically significant structures from 50 to 75 years old. Essentially, if we think of it in today's years, it would be moving from 1971 from 1956 right now. So right now, anything built from 1971 would have to go before the commission, and it would change this back to 1956. The advisory board recommends approval of this article by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you very much. The Board of Selectmen voted unanimously to support this article. We go to the floor. Seeing no one at either microphone, we'll go to a vote. This requires majority vote for passage. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, it clearly passes by more than a majority. What's the next article? 15? Article 15, and who's on deck? Article 9's on deck. Here we go. Article 15, the Board of Public Works moves that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to convey and/or transfer control of approximately 63.98 more or less acres of unused town land currently under the control of the Department of Public Works pursuant to Article 97 of the Articles of Amendment to the Massachusetts Constitution to the care and custody of the town's Conservation Commission for the purpose of providing priority habitat mitigation as required by Massachusetts Endangered Species Act, MESA in parentheses, and as approved by the Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program, NHESP in parentheses, of the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife to offset impact from development of other town-owned land and to provide permanent protection of the open space parcels shown on the plan, Conservation Restriction Plan of land near Union Street, Marshfield, Massachusetts, prepared by SMC Surveying and Mapping Consultants, Braintree, Mass., dated March 13, 2013, with said land denoted as and comprised of 63.98 more or less acres as follows: CR-1 with 21.354 acres, CR-2 with 3.264 acres, CR-3 with 12.45 acres, and CR-4 with 26.906 acres, which includes an existing camping area shown with 3.532 acres, with said camping area to remain open to the public, accessible by existing wood roads, and the transfer of said land would also provide mitigation for future development of approximately 18.15 acres of future expansion of Couch Cemetery, as described in Article 15 of April 26, 2021 town meeting warrant. This is a Board of Public Works article. Recognize Mr. Reynolds, DPW Superintendent.
Tom Reynolds, DPW Superintendent, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you.
This transfer of custody, a portion of town-owned land from DPW custody to the Conservation Department. The ball fields off Rockwood Road and Couch Cemetery expansion required rare species priority habitat mitigation through National Heritage and Endangered Species Program, which is the NHESP. The Couch Cemetery transfer provides the NHESP that required Article 97 protection that NHESP deems appropriate for protection. This enables us to transfer this property to conservation. The state now allows that, where we don't have to go out and get someone like Wildlands Trust a conservation restriction, which can be costly annually for them to oversee our conservation restriction. By giving this to conservation, it enables us to keep, the town keeps control of this property under the Conservation Commission, and that it enables us to carry a surplus of land to use for future mitigation for any expansion that we do at the cemetery, which is planned over the next few years.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reynolds. We'll turn now to Mr. D. Christopher over the Advisory Board.
Paul DeCristofaro, George Street, Advisory Board. The Advisory Board has voted to approve this as written. As Superintendent said, this is the right thing to do. It puts a control under the Conservation Commission. It saves on third-party mitigation costs and provides for future expansion of the cemetery.
Thank you very much, Mr. D. Christopher. The Board of Selectmen voted unanimously to support this article. Passage of, there's someone at the rear mic. So let's go to rear microphone.
Katie O'Donnell, 90 Summer Street. I just had a question. So this land will not be protected by a conservation restriction?
I can't answer that. Let me see if I can get someone who can. Can you answer that, Mr. Reynolds?
I can, Mr. Moderator.
Please do.
The Conservation Commission will hold the conservation restriction rather than a private firm.
It's my understanding that a town cannot hold a conservation restriction on itself.
Well, I certainly can't answer that question. Do you want to comment, Mr. Galvin? Town Council?
Yes, Robert Galvin, Town Council. There's been a change of thinking at the Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program, where they formerly would require this land to be protected with a conservation restriction. They are now allowing this land to be transferred pursuant to Article 97 to the Conservation Commission, which basically provides a perpetual restriction for this land to remain in open space or conservation. It would require, in order to remove that, first of all, the unanimous consent of the Conservation Commission, a 2/3 vote of the town meeting, a 9/10 vote of the state legislature, support of the Secretary of Energy and Environmental Affairs in compliance with its policy. And my understanding is Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program is now accepting that that is a restricted property because it's constitutionally restricted.
Has the town been working with a conservation group previously before this to hold a conservation restriction?
I can't answer that. Can you answer that, Mr. Reynolds?
I can, Mr. Moderator.
Please do.
We haven't been working with anybody on the Couch Cemetery.
Okay, there's no draft conservation restriction? Nobody from another group has been working on this?
Not that I'm aware of, Mr. Moderator.
Do you have any other questions, please?
No, I would just say that I hope that if the town is working with private land organization, nonprofit land organizations to help them with acquisitions, I know that usually there's an expectation that the town will be paying for a CR at the end of it. And if this is changing that, I just hope that the town isn't negotiating and working with those groups without reimbursing them for their support. We definitely need them in town.
All right, thank you very much. Seeing no one else at the microphones, we're going to go directly to a vote. This requires a 2/3 vote for passage. 2/3. All in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? It clearly passes by more than 2/3. What's next? Article number 9. The Planning Board moves that the town vote to amend the Marshfield Town Code, Chapter 305, zoning bylaws, Section 305-5.04, Table of Use Regulations, in parentheses, Attachment 1, by amending the existing language of the bylaw relating to community facilities, uses 21 and 22, as written under Article 9 of the April 26, 2021 Annual Town Meeting warrant. This is a Planning Board article. I recognize Mr. Guimond, Town Planner.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Greg Guimond, Ice House Lane. This article modifies the existing table of use for medical and recreational marijuana facilities to allow the uses only in the portion of the Water Resource Protection District that is located within the I-1 Industrial District and is not covered under 30511 Planned Mixed-Use Development PMUD overlays. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the Planning Board voted 5-0 to support this article.
Thank you very much. Call upon Mr. Scollins of the Advisory Board.
Tom Scollins, Advisory Board. As the medical and recreational marijuana facilities are new to town, it's crucial to get the language correct. The Advisory Board recommend approval of this article by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you. The Board of Selectmen voted unanimously to support this article. We go to the town meeting floor. I see no one at either microphone. We'll go to a vote. This requires 2/3 vote for passage. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? It passes by more than 2/3. What's next? 18? 19. And what's on deck? Okay, Article 19's up and Article 11 is on deck. This is a citizen's petition article. Resident Monica Natali moves that the town vote to approve the proposed general bylaw set forth in Article 19 of the April 26, 2021 Annual Town Meeting warrant. As I said, this is a citizen's petition. I recognize Ms. Natali. Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. Mr. Moderator, when the Garden Bros Circus came in town 2 years ago, I was one of the few that braved the inclement weather to protest. Seeing one of the elephants swaying back and forth, a typical sign of distress, has haunted me ever since until I finally decided to take action. Once upon a time, the circus was advertised as the greatest show on earth. Now it's referred to as the cruelest show on earth. These animals live a horrible life. They're separated from their family at a very young age. Some are actually kidnapped from the wild, like Beula, the elephant that died at the Big E after her untreated uterine infection poisoned her blood. I don't know if there is a slide. Is there a slide?
John, do you have any slides? I'm sorry, those, for one reason or another, excuse me? I saw them, though. Do you? All right, hang on just a moment. Getting some feedback there. Grace, this doesn't count against her for now. Sorry for the confusion, ladies and gentlemen. The meeting, I did see these photographs, but apparently there was a mix-up. What? Yeah. Oh, it's not on. Can somebody turn my mic on, please? Okay, no. Ladies and gentlemen, I did see these photographs. There apparently has been a mix-up and they did not make it into the master PowerPoint presentation. We're trying to retrieve them right now. All right, they're up. All right, so what photograph do you want, please? One, photograph one. There we go.
Okay. All right.
All right, is that the one you wanted?
Yes.
All right.
All right.
Photograph number one's up. Please continue.
As you can see in the first slide, the animals are subjected to extremely abusive training. Wild animals don't perform these unnatural tricks because they want to. They perform them because they're afraid of the consequences if they don't. Trainers use ball hooks, whips, electric prods, sticks and chains to force them to do tricks, many times withholding food until after the performance. The second slide shows a trainer from Carden Bros, the outlet that brought the elephants to Marshfield in 2019, using fear of a ball hook, an object that looks like a fireplace poker, to control elephants during an exhibition. Another major issue with wild animals acts in circuses is the lack of oversight. Circuses and traveling shows are regulated by the Federal Animal Welfare Act, which requires that animal exhibitors be licensed and that they meet minimum requirements and standards for handling, care, treatment, and transportation of animals. It creates what is essentially a survival standard for animals held in captivity. And the sad reality is that exhibitors on the road today fail to meet even that standard. For example, Carden Bros, again, has been cited by the USDA for violations of the AWA, including failure to provide adequate veterinary care, failure to handle animals properly, failure to have safe enclosure for animals, failure to provide animals with sufficient space, and more. Recent inspection of Carden's elephants and camels by Atlanta's Fulton County Animal Services revealed 2 elephants with bruised feet were made to stand on concrete, had wounds that were covered with wonder dust, the gray powder often used by circuses to cover ball hook wounds, and had minimal hay and no water. Transportation is inherently cruel. Animals used in traveling shows are subjected to prolonged confinement as they are hauled around the country in poorly ventilated trucks and trailers. These, of course, prevent the animals from expressing or engaging in virtually any natural behaviors and result in intensive confinement for the majority of time that animals are on the road, and unfortunately sometimes for longer. In fact, members of the Carden family who have performed in Marshfield have been cited by the federal government for confining tigers to a transport cage for 23 hours a day. The image shows how small these transport cages are. Last but not least, the problems related to wild animals traveling acts are the public safety risk. Carden Circus, again, has been cited numerous times by the USDA for failure to safely handle elephants while the animals were used to give rides to the public and when spectators were separated from the elephants by less than 5 feet between them. In 2004, a Carden elephant attacked an arena worker, causing injuries that required surgery and resulted in more than $16,000 in medical bills. In 2002, 2 Carden elephants bolted out of a tent during a show, scattering crowds. One elephant hiked 2 miles through town before she was recaptured. A child was injured, and the elephants damaged a door at a park and a city truck. Larry Carden stated that his emergency plan in case of escape was to shoot and kill the animal. Wild animals can transmit zoonotic diseases. Elephants can carry tuberculosis.
You have about 30 seconds remaining.
Okay. Carden elephants have tested positive and in 2015 were prohibited from performing by the Dallas Health and Human Services because of the threat of transmissions to humans. Big cats can be infected with COVID-19. Other circuses, acts as also contracted with Carden Bros, have lists of similar violations. For example, in 2016, the USDA assessed Carson and Barnes Circus a civil penalty of $16,000 for multiple charges of failure to safely handle elephants after they escaped from an arena outside St. Louis. The slide shows a newspaper from a recent example in 2017. A Garden Bros elephant got loose and was wandering around
Ms.
suburban
Natale, your
Wisconsin.
time has been expired.
Please vote yes on Article 19 and say no to cruelty.
All right. Now, it's my understanding, though, that you wanted to offer an amendment to the language of Article 19. And it's my understanding that the amendment you wish to offer addresses the portion of the existing language which essentially indicates that the police should seize these animals. And I don't know if we'd like to have someone from the police department, either the chief or some other representative, but I've attended a couple of meetings in which the chief has indicated that the police do not have facilities to house those members, and there's a question of whether or not they have the authority to do this. So I am assuming that you want to strike certain language in this
Yes, has been done so.
this petition, all right? So where is it that you want to strike?
Oh, it's 16, so section 16, 9, enforcement. The Marshfield Animal Control Officer or Marshfield Police Department or their designees shall have the authority to enforce violation of these sections. Any person, performance, or traveling animal act that violates this section shall be subject to a civil penalty of $300, and each covered animal that participates in a traveling animal act in violation of this section shall constitute a separate violation. It was struck the part that talked about
All right, so which,
seizing.
be specific if you would, please, for us.
All right.
Which is the actual language that's being stricken?
All right. Any animal being allowed to participate in the Traveling Animal Act in violation of these sections may be seized or impounded.
All right,
That's taken out.
All right, that's language is coming out.
Yes.
All right.
Sorry.
So what we're going to do then is we're going to vote, or at least go to the floor with respect to that particular amendment first after hearing from the advisory board, and I believe it's Maureen Meach. Stay with us, Ms. Natale. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Maureen Meach, Webster Street. The advisory board unanimously recommends postponing this article until the fall town meeting or until we have more information.
All right, so you've not taken a vote for or against this particular article. You're recommending to the meeting that the article be postponed.
Yes, that's correct. Not only do we need more information, but the Marshfield Police, the Board of Selectmen, I think there's a lot of information that we need before we can recommend.
All right, well, let me go. Hearing the position of the advisory board, Ms. Natale, do you still wish to proceed with the discussion and the ultimate vote on this article, or are you willing to postpone the article?
I would like to move forward.
You'd like to move forward, all right. So thank you very much, Ms. Meach. She's certainly within her rights to do that. The Board of Selectmen has indicated to me that they did not take a vote with respect to this particular article. They did not vote in favor, they did not vote against, they simply didn't take a vote on this particular article. We now go to the meeting floor. I see a lady at the rear microphone.
Katie O'Donnell, 90 Summer Street. I don't really want to belabor this, but in case it passes, I did have an proposed amendment just because there's kind of some confusion in terminology.
All right, we're talking really first about the amendment.
No, okay, I'm good then.
Okay, so do you have anything to say with respect to the amendment?
No.
All right, so then Seeing no one else wanting to address the amendment, what we're going to do is vote on the amendment, which was to strike the language by which the police would seize the animals. All those, they would require a majority vote for passage. All those in favor of the amendment, raise your hand. All those opposed? It clearly passes by a majority. So now we have before you the amended article. And I recognize the lady at the rear microphone.
Katie O'Donnell, 90 Summer Street. I'm kind of with the other boards who withheld voting on this. I don't support wild animal acts personally, but I do worry that it's a slippery slope, and as somebody who owns domesticated animals, I firmly believe that dog shows and horse shows and livestock, as a former 4-H'er, I want to make sure that those stay protected. But there is just some terminology. Camelidae are part of Artiodactyla, so it should be struck because otherwise llamas and alpacas count under Camelidae, but they're excluded under Artiodactyla. So maybe this is just a question that maybe this should be held off on. But, and then I had also just one question, which is why exclude rays when you're banning so many others?
Why exclude which, please?
Under L, elasmobranchii, excluding rays. I just couldn't understand why they were still in.
Okay, well, I can't answer those questions, and I have to confess that when I first saw this article, there was more Latin in there that I've seen forever, and I had to turn to town council, who has a Boston, was it Boston College or BC High education, in the classics to even interpret what this is. So what are you asking us to do? You're asking us to strike subpart B altogether? Are you saying leave camels in and strike out strike out llamas and?
I really don't want to belabor this, but
well, then,
I guess, but there is, if it was to pass, it would have a conflict in it. So that's my issue. I would strike Camelidae.
All right. Well, do you want to propose that amendment or not? Or do you want to simply urge the meeting to defeat the article?
I want you, can you poll and see if this is going to pass and or if we need to spend time on it? Or is this article going to not pass and going to be reworked?
Well, let me do this. To speed up things, let me take a sense of the meeting, all right? This isn't a binding vote. But for this article to pass, Article number 19, it would require, as amended, it would require a majority vote. So all those, this is a test, it's not binding, that would be prepared to vote in favor of this article, raise your hand. All those opposed. The sense of the meeting, Ms. McDonald, is the article is going to be defeated.
In that case, I would just move the article.
All right, thank you very much. I do appreciate that. We'll now go to a vote. I accept your motion to move the article. To be passed, this article has to have a majority vote. So all in favor of this article, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the article is clearly defeated. What's the next article? Article number 11. The Planning Board moves that the town vote to amend the Marshfield Town Code, Chapter 305, zoning bylaws, Article Roman numeral 15, floodplain zoning by deleting the existing Article Roman numeral 15 in its entirety and replacing it with a new Article 15, floodplain zoning as written under Article 11 of the April 26, 2021 Annual Town Meeting warrant. This is a Planning Board article. I recognize Mr. Guimond, Town Planner.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Greg Guimond, Ice House Lane. This article modifies the existing floodplain zoning bylaw by adding 3 different things. First, adding language required by the state and FEMA to the text. Second, this article, by reference, also updates the zoning map to include the inland waterways flood map. And third, this map change will also reflect the revisions to the last summer's Duxbury and Marshfield LOMA updates. By approving this change, the town would remain in the FEMA flood insurance program. Planning Board voted 5-0 to support this article.
Thank you very much. Mr. Scollins for the Advisory Board.
Tom Scollins, Advisory Board. I think the bottom line is to remain in the insurance program. So the Advisory Board recommends approval of this article by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you very much. The Board of Selectmen informed me that they have voted unanimously to support this article. We go now to the floor. I see a gentleman at the rear microphone.
Eric Murphy, Ocean Street.
Yeah, please speak up, sir. Thank you.
I would like to propose an amendment if possible.
Well, let's see what it is.
Amendment to 15.6 subdivision proposals.
And what is your amendment?
My amendment would be after C, a D, adequate flood-proof parking be provided for 2 vehicles per unit. 10 words.
All right, you just made it under the limit. I've got to let town council take a look at this, sir. Bear with us just a minute. Could you repeat it one more time, sir, for us?
Adequate flood-proof parking be provided for 2 vehicles per unit.
Thank you. Jim, how many articles do we have left? You think it's a proper amendment? Yeah. All right, yeah. Huh? 9 and 10? Did we do 9? Okay. All right. I am advised by town council.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
I don't blame you. I am advised by town council that this is a legal amendment. I am going to allow you to speak in favor of the amendment, but I'm also going to go back to Mr. Demont to speak with respect to the amendment. So please tell us why you want to amend this article in that fashion.
Okay. As everyone in town knows, areas in town do flood on occasion. Areas that have not flooded will flood in the next 10 years or 15 years. Any new construction that does go on in the next 10 or 15 years will leave cars at low-lying areas of houses that are, suspended on pilings. And if you have an apartment building with 100 units, you're going to have 200 cars that now are flooded underwater with oil, gas, those materials, contaminating the pollution, and being totaled and adding to the insurance process of the town. So that's why I say if you're going to build in the floodplain and it floods on a regular basis, which is Section V, if you are going to build there, you should provide safe and adequate parking for at least 2 vehicles, because everyone in this building has at least 2 vehicles.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Turn now to Mr. Demont, Town Planner.
This amendment goes well beyond the FEMA and MEMA language that they've supplied us. I understand the intent, but realize that this would cause single-family homeowners to have to build platforms to raise their cars above the flood level.
This is only on subdivision proposals.
Well, hang on just a moment, sir. Hang on. So for that reason, Mr. Guimond, I assume that you are urging the meeting to reject or vote against the amendment.
I'm just clarifying it that within a subdivision, single-family homes would have to raise parking for 2 cars on each of their lots with this amendment.
All right, and that being the case, do you wish to advise the meeting as to how the meeting members should vote with respect to the amendment?
I am not going to advise town meeting how to vote on this amendment.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to get back to you. I haven't forgotten you. But I also would like to hear town council's opinion here with respect to the amendment. We're talking just about the amendment now.
My concern with the amendment is that it says all subdivision proposals and development proposals in the floodplain overlay district shall be reviewed to assure that, and then this would be D, adequate flood-proof parking be provided for 2 vehicles per unit. And my concern is that someone could potentially develop a parcel in one of the floodplain areas, including Brant Rock, propose to divide a parcel, and there's a couple of vacant parcels there, and not be able to develop them at all unless they provided a parking structure which elevated the cars above the flood level. And I think that could create some potential problems. We usually recommend against trying to amend zoning bylaws at town meetings because of the unintended consequences, and I haven't really given it all the complete thought that I probably should. So it kind of gives me some pause. But I think that's my concern, that someone that's proposing to redevelop a house or split a lot might then have to create some type of a parking structure in one of our floodplain overlay district areas.
All right, thank you very much.
Can I respond to that?
Yes, you're going to get last word. It's your amendment.
Thank you.
Do you have anything further to say, Mr. Guimond?
The building commissioner just mentioned to me that this will also affect the height of the buildings as well.
All right, thank you. All right, you can sum up. This is, in response to, you can rebut anything that was said urging this body to not, or suggesting that this body not pass the amendment. I'll give you 30 seconds.
To sum up, if there were going to be 80 units built in such a space as Mr. Galvin said as Brant Rock, they would be required to, yes, build a parking garage so that their 180 vehicles do not float down the street and contaminate the neighborhood on a twice-a-year basis. So yes, that is what the planning is.
All right.
And I respectfully request that we approve this.
All right, thank you very much. There's no further debate with respect to the amendment. For the amendment to pass, it requires a 2/3 vote. So for that amendment to pass, 2/3 of you must vote in support of the amendment. So all those in favor of the amendment, raise your hand. All those opposed? The amendment's clearly defeated. We now go back to the main article. Is there any further discussion? Seeing no one else at the microphones, this requires a 2/3 vote to pass as well. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? It clearly passes by more than 2/3. What's next? All right, we are now to Article number 10 on the town meeting warrant. The planning board moves that the town, right, 10? The planning board moves that the town vote to amend the Marshfield Town Code, Chapter 305, zoning bylaws, Section 305-5.04, Table of Use Regulations, in parentheses, Attachment 1, by amending the existing language of the bylaw relating to the community facilities by adding a new use known as a combined medical and recreational marijuana facility as use 23, as written under Article 10 of the April 26, 2021 annual town meeting warrant. This is a planning board article. Recognize Mr. Guimond, town planner.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Greg Guimond, Ice House Lane. This article would add to the existing use table to allow for a combined medical and recreational marijuana facility. The state passed language allowing medical facilities, and then later on, almost a year later, they passed allowing recreational marijuana facilities. our town followed. We first passed medical, we then passed recreational. But when we did them as separate articles, not a combined facility. This article would allow a combination of medical and recreational facilities on the same parcel within the I-1 district. Planning Board voted 5-0 to support this article.
Thank you very much. Turn now to the Advisory Board. Mr. Scollins.
Tom Scollins, Advisory Board. Again, just about getting the language correct. We recommend approval of this article by a vote of 8-0.
All right. The Board of Selectmen have informed me that they voted unanimously to support this article. Go now to the town floor. I do not see any one rising to either microphone, so we'll go directly to a vote. This requires a 2/3 vote for passage. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? It clearly passes by more than 2/3. I now, Norris? I now call upon the town clerk to give a brief announcement concerning voting that's going on currently and will be going on the rest of this week up to the election on Saturday, if you would, please.
Okay.
Could you use your mic?
Hear me, right? Because it's a gym. I just wanted you to know that we are doing early voting in Town Hall for the next 2 days.
No, they can't. They can't hear you. You have to use a mic. Make sure it's on. Yeah.
I know. All right. So for the next 2 days, we'll be doing early voting in person at Town Hall. It starts at 8 o'clock in the morning, ends at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we've had under 500 people vote so far early in person. So I would really like it if you people would come and tell your friends and family members and anybody else who's over the age of 18 and registered to vote to use this, because it's a wonderful service for the town, and I'd like to be able to continue to do this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the meeting for its willingness to use the consent agenda. We have concluded the business of the annual town meeting, and I would entertain a motion that this 2021 spring annual town meeting be dissolved, its business having been concluded. All those in favor, raise your hand. Whoa, wait a minute, wait a minute.
Done Article 8, Mr. Moderator.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Article 8? It passed. Didn't it?
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
Article 8 passed. Are you satisfied, Madam Clerk, that Article 8 was acted on?
I have it as passed by over 2/3.
It passed by 2/3, over 2/3. All right, so please, if you're going to leave, you're going to leave through these 2 doors to my right. Thank you very much for your willingness to use the consent agenda.
Yeah.